Live. Welcome to the second Ask Hearthstone card review stream. In this stream, we will be covering neutrals, and we have a new panel today. I am your host again, Tueri. I own Ask Hearthstone, and let's hear from Smork again, just to reintroduce himself.
Hi, I'm John or Smork. I finished top 50 Legend. I was big on Patron back in the day. I'm a Miracle Road player. I also play Pirate Warrior. That's the Smork name. But I've been playing Hearthstone for about 2.5 years now. I've been Legend a lot. And I just enjoyed the game.
Bro, now let's hear from Fuel. Tell us a bit about yourself.
All right. I'm Fuel. I also have top 50 Legend finish, but my real, I'd say, area of expertise is this right here, analyzing cards, deck building, this sort of new content stuff. That's where I really like to put my efforts. The actual playing the game can be left better to people like John.
Brill, now let's hear from Niraj.
Alright, hi, I'm Niraj. I am mostly a standard player. I do play a lot of arena as well. Had a few legend finishes. I'm mostly a priest player in standard. I play a good amount of arena as well. So yeah.
Yeah, and he's our protege. We've picked him up and turned him into a really strong player. We're really proud of where he's come, so have no doubts that he'll give us a lot of insight here. And now let's move on to Haydam. Can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Okay, hey, I'm Haydam. I play a lot of Wild. I am mainly known for being the Paladin writer for Vicious Syndicate, or one of them. I was also one of the two people to popularize mid-range Paladin in Wild. Other than that, I have been playing the game since closed beta, kind of on and off. I have a few legend finishers, but that's about it.
Brill. So we're going to be mixing things up a little bit today, in that we're going to be rating each card from 1 to 5 stars. Now, 5 stars means we expect this card to see to define a tier 1 deck or to be a very high-end arena card. 4 stars defines a tier 2 deck. Still a really good arena card, but not on every not something that you pick every single time. 3 stars defines a tier 3 a tier 3 deck on standard or wild, and just an average card in arena. 2 stars.
You're cutting out a bit there.
Oh, am I? Sorry.
Yeah.
Let's see if this is better. Okay. 2 stars, we expect the card to see play in a tier 4 deck, and in arena for it to be a situational pick. And 1 star means we don't expect it to see any play in wild, standard, or arena. Okay, but we're going to have an individual star rating for standard, wild, and arena, because you can't rate cards across all 3 platforms. So that's the star system out of the way. Now, let's move on to our first card. We have Bone Mare, 7 mana 5/5, give a friendly minion +4/+4 and taunt. We'll start off with standard, so Smork, hit us off.
I'll probably give this. I don't know if I can give it 2.5 stars, but I expect it might see some fringe play in maybe mid-range Hunter, just because you play high main and you're curved into this. High main doesn't really get removed easily, so this is kind of a finisher in that deck. You play high main, let's say they fireball and kill one of the 2/2s, and then you play this and you have a 4 defense, so you kill them. It could see some play in Tempo Warrior as well, possibly, but it's going to be very fringe. It's just good in mid-range, that's in general, but it might not be enough to see play. I'll do it 3 stars.
Pretty good. Fuel, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah.
Fuel, are you there?
Oh yeah, sorry, I didn't hear if you said my name. Yes, I agree with John. I think that Bone Mare is a niche card in a couple of tier 1 decks, like maybe a tech choice, but Yeah, so 3 stars. It's a solid card, mid-rangey. That's about all there's to say about it.
I think one of the good things about this card is you don't really have a lot of strong 7-drops in Standard.
That's
so
true.
It might also see play for that reason. What do you think, John?
I mean, if you don't have strong 7-drops, you just don't have to play 7-drop. It's really not like that important. You know, you can just play a 6-drop and you can curve into Lichkin or something. So I don't think it's that important that there's no 7-drops, but it's more about like how good the card is.
Makes sense. Hayden, what do you think about this card in Wild?
Okay, so while it being good in mid-range attacks is entirely true, the big problem with it in Wild is that we still have Dr. Boom. There's no reason to play this card over Dr. Boom, I would think. The best mid-range decks, like mid-range Wild and stuff like that, they would rather have a card that instead of kind of aggressively like doing damage and putting a taunt body on the battlefield, you'd much rather have a card like Dr. Boom that just finishes the game on its own. On turn 7s and 8, as a mid-range deck, you want to be finishing the game, not prolonging it with a taunt. So I'd give it like 2 stars. It might see some play if this card's strength really isn't Hunter. Curving Highmane into Bone Mare actually does seem fairly strong. The card is very sticky, and you know being able to buff any of the bodies is really good. Plus the buff is a Blessing of King, which is still very strong. But I don't rate it that high. I believe it's like a 2-star.
Sounds good. And now, Niraj, let's hear about this card from Arena, because this is pretty sick.
Yeah, this is pretty insane as a curve topper in Arena. It's like when you're playing stuff like a mid-range deck in Arena. So an example being Paladin. This is an insane card to just top off your curve, because you're giving your 6-drop so much power on the board, and you're just adding a lot of stats onto the board with this card. I'd probably give this 4.5 stars. I could even push this to 5, perhaps. This is just a really insane card, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And Arena's all about tempo. This is insane tempo right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Adding a Blessing of Kings with Taunt is just really insane in Arena, because Blessing of Kings is a really good card.
Yeah, that's already something that you want to pick. And now it's
when you're adding, now you add Taunt onto a 5/5 for 7. That's really insane.
And if we look at something like Paladin, you wouldn't even mind playing this on turn 9 with like one of your Silver Hand recruits. Like, this is absolutely fine. Yeah.
I think this will be a good curve topper in a good amount of decks that you play this in. Hunter is another one that comes to mind. Most decks that are mid-rangey that just want to have this as a curve topper.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's nice as well is talking a lot about this card, but it's nice with cards like this because you're going to have to think very carefully about how you draft. Because, again, cards like these reward you being on the board. Now you're going to have to keep that in mind when you draft. How good is my draft at sticking to the board? Am I going to be able to play this on turn 7?
Right.
So that's cool. Brilliant. So now we can move on to the next card, potentially the cutest card that we've seen in this expansion.
This is the cutest card.
Penguin. Yes, it is. Does this see play in Standard, John?
Okay, I'm gonna actually say yes, just because it has a beast tag and it's 0 mana. Like the beast tag is really, really strong. You can play it in Druid, for example. You can just mark if you Shars it, and then you have a 2 mana 3/3 that draws a card, which is just really good. Generally in that deck, you really don't have that many beast target, so it's just good. It helps with flooding your board. I think it will see play in that deck. It's going to be fringe, though. You might not even play 2 copies, just because you run into the problem of having your curve like really, really low. You play a bunch of 1-cost cards already, so that could be a bit of a problem. It might see play in Hunter because it has the beast tag again. It's really good with like Hyena, for example. You play a bunch of stuff on turn 1. You play, let's say, a 1/2. You trade your stuff in, and play like Hyena, and you buff it a bunch. So it's possible. I'll probably give it 2 stars because I don't think it's going to define either of those decks, and I don't think either of those decks are going to be like tier 1 either. But I think it's okay.
Makes sense. Fuel, what do you think about the strength of this card? Is it a good card?
Fuel DC. Oh, he's back.
Okay.
Okay, I'm back.
Fuel, is this a good card? Snowflipper Penguin.
No. It's got synergy with decks Stalker Rexar. It's never going to see play in Constructed unless there's some crazy thing like Caverns Below, but we can't predict that.
Okay.
Something along those lines.
Hey Dom, what do you think about Wild? Does this card see play?
Beast Tag does not matter at all in Wild. The mid-range deck of choice is mid-range Paladin. Putting a 0 mana 1/1 in the deck does not help it be better than mid-range Paladin, so I'm giving this card 1 star.
And what about Arena, Niraj?
Yeah, you're not gonna pick this too much unless there's like really, really bad picks next to this card. Probably a 1-star card in Arena as well.
Yeah, it's like a Wisp, and you don't really pick Wisp.
Yeah, you'll pick it the same amount you pick Wisp, but you don't pick Wisp.
I mean, this does have a Beast Tag, but it's the only class that really benefits from the Beast Tag in Arena is Hunter, and even then,
they run out of cards too fast with that. So
yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean, you pick Wisp in Arena. It happens. Sometimes it gets put up against the 1/1 Murloc, and it's 0 mana is better, but it's extremely fringe.
Yeah.
Moving on to the next card, Cobalt Scalebane is a 5 mana 5/5 dragon. At the end of your turn, give another friendly minion +3 attack. What do we think about this card, Fuel?
I like this card. This surprised me, honestly. It looked like a filler card at first glance, and the more I've thought about it, the more I've thought this card might see fringe play in constructed decks. You can pull it off of Curator. It's much more aggressive than Primordial Drake. It synergizes with floody decks. I think there's a chance. I'm giving this card 3 stars. I think there's a chance you see it in tier 1, tier 2 decks on the, rarely, but it's possible.
What do you think, John? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I tend to agree with him. Like, getting it pulled from Curator is a really big deal. For example, we had UK Paladin, which played Curator, and it didn't really want Primordial Drake in its deck, obviously. But a card like this would fit in the deck well. You play this, and you have a bunch of small dudes on board, they don't kill it, and then it pushes damage. So I think it's pretty good. I'll give it 3 stars as well.
Yeah, it's like an infinite generator, which is really cool. If you have control of the board and this sticks, that's such a
you play an aggressive, that's what Curator.
Yeah, absolutely.
They don't play dragons, so good.
What about in Wild, Hayden? Because we've got a lot of dragons there.
So I'm gonna mention this a lot during the stream, but this is in mid-range Paladin, which this deck would go in a mid-range deck. You have Quartermaster. This card is just a bad Quartermaster. In decks that run Curator, you would rather have either Azure Drake or Primordial Drake. We still have access to Azure Drake, and this is just kind of a worse Azure Drake. I think you'd rather have Cycle than a buff on random minions. So I'm giving it 1 star.
Oh, okay. And now, Niraj, what do we think about this card in Arena?
It feels like kind of like Bone Mar in the same way that it rewards you a lot for having board.
That's going to be a common theme, I think.
Yeah, this card does reward you a lot for having board. It's pretty strong when you get the effect off onto like a 4-drop or a 3-drop. I like this. I think I'd give this 4 stars. It's just not it's not super powerful compared to Bone Mar, but it's still a really good card.
Absolutely, and I echo all the ideas that you say there. I think the fact that this rewards you for being on board, and we're seeing so many cards that require you to be on the board, it feels like Arena is going to be really snowbally in this expansion, and I feel like this is going to be one of the cards that wins you the game.
It feels more like it's going to be pretty mid-rangey, and then it's just going to reward you a lot for having these cards.
It's what I feel looking at the 2-drops, right? There's really 1 or 2 of them in the commons and rares.
There's not that many.
There's going to be, it's going to be more about sticking a minion to the board than it is about snowballing a tempo lead.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. Moving on to the next card, we have Necrotic Geist, 6 mana 5/3. Whenever one of your other minions dies, summon a 2/2 ghoul. Now, think when I looked at this the first time, I thought it was quite weak, but a lot of people have been talking good things about it. So actually, we'll start with Arena on this card, because there's a lot to say about it there. Niraj, what do you think?
I'm pretty interested by this card. I had the same thoughts as you. I thought this was going to be bad at first, because it seems like, oh, a 6 mana 5/3. That's like pretty bad when you're paying for it. But it's kind of another thing that rewards you for being on board again. Like if you can trade into 5-drops and stuff like that, you can just summon a bunch of 2/2s and just keep chaining off like that. That being said, though, I don't know how much there's going to be such like super wide boards where this is going to reward you so much, something like that. But I don't know. I think this is probably a 3-star, maybe 3.5. I don't think it's that bad, but I don't think it's going to be something that you always pick. It's probably going to be in something that's more in like a flood-ish deck in Arena.
Yeah, absolutely. So what would you give this out of 5?
3 or 3.5, I think.
Okay, that's reasonable. Moving on to constructed, we'll go with standard. John, what do you think about this card?
It's 1 star. It's not going to see any play. When we have a big enough board for it to be good, we just want to like kill the opponent. So we'll play like Savage Roar or a buff card. If we're like in a deck that doesn't have those, even Cult Master does the job better. It like refills your hand, so you can draw into the stuff that kills your opponent. This doesn't really accomplish that, so it's not good enough.
Very true. And Phil, do you have anything to add to that?
I'm inclined to consider giving this card a 2. I think the tempo gained relative to Cult Master is worth considering, because you're basically turning, instead of drawing a card, you're just throwing a 2/2 out. That said, the cost is pretty prohibitive in constructed. So it's a 1 or 2. It's not good. In Arena, though, in a meta where you have a better curve, this card I think is insane. Just in the current meta we've got and the meta we're expecting to have, it's going to be just good.
Makes a lot of sense. Hey Dom, what about this card in Wild?
Okay, so the card that is the most similar to it is like Cult Master. And actually, recently, All Dragon was playing mid-range Murloc Paladin to top legend, and it was running a 1 of Cult Master, which makes me kind of want to rethink about this card. But the more that I look at it, it just costs more, has less stats, and it is not drawing you cards, which I think in every situation, I'd rather draw cards instead of summoning a ghoul. Plus, I believe All Dragon's even cutting Cult Master and stuff like that. I don't think this card's very good. I'm going to give it a 1 star.
Seems reasonable. Let's move on to the next card then. We have Death Speaker. So let's hear from John first. How good is Death Speaker?
It's like a really cool card. I mean, it gives a friendly minion immune this turn. The problem is it like just doesn't really fit anywhere. A lot of decks, they're not going to like take those value trades like you do in Arena. They have like really broken synergies with like Murlocs or Pirates, or you'll flood stuff, but in a flood deck it's not even good because all of your stuff is low health. I just don't think it really fits anywhere. So 1 star.
Phil,
Wow.
Do you have anything to add to that? It seems like you might disagree.
I do. I don't think this card's great, but I do think it is worth considering. It's not going to go into any of the top decks we're looking at on ladder right now, but I would absolutely look at playing this in Zoo. I would consider playing this in any really like aggro control or mid-rangey deck where board trades are more valuable, where you're controlling the board with your board rather than with spells, AoE, that sort of thing. Weapons. It is. I was more excited when I first saw it. It was like, oh, this is like Divine Shield. It's not quite as good as Divine Shield because you can't preemptively do it. But let's say Zoo were a deck right now. I would absolutely be looking at playing this in Zoo, partly because they're lacking 3-drops and partly because that's how they control the board, is with trades, and this trades up. But yeah, it's not good in token decks and it's not good in straight aggro, so it's probably a 2, maybe a 3. It's not great in the current meta. But I think it has more potential than John's giving it credit for.
Okay, that's fair. Hey Dom, what do you think about this card?
Okay, so this card's actually fairly interesting. Mainly because of its similarities to Steward of Darkshire. So currently in Wild, the best deck mid-range Paladin is running Steward of Darkshire in order to make their recruits and their pirate packages more resilient, so they are able to trade on board easier. And I believe this card kind of fills the same role. Not exactly mid-range paladin, but in decks like Zoo or something like that, I believe this card's actually very, very strong and it has potential. The problem being is Zoo and other decks like that are not very good right now. So I believe that this deck actually, or this card would actually be fairly good in like tier 2 to 3 decks like Zoo and stuff like that, because it is a very good card for board control. So I'm going to give it a 3-star.
Okay. And what about in Arena, Niraj?
This card's pretty good. The thing about this card is that in a scenario where you play a 2-drop, then your opponent plays a 2-drop, and then you play this, you can essentially free trade into their 2-drop, keeping your 2-drop like alive, and your board is, you have a 2-drop and 3-drop, and they don't have anything, assuming they trade in, obviously. But I think this is pretty good because you get yourself a bit more favorable trades while keeping your board resilient. I think it's pretty strong. I give it a 4-star card.
I agree with that. I think the ability to be able to stick stuff onto the board, control trades with this card, is going to be really powerful. So I'd give it about a 4, but then by itself, it's not amazing. So 4 seems reasonable in my mind as well. Also, while you guys have been talking, I have been changing the arrow color. So thank you for putting up with that, viewers. All right, so now let's move on to 2 mana, 2/1 Fallen Sun Cleric with a battle cry, give a friendly minion +1/+1. So it's a cheaper Shattered Sun Cleric for 2 mana, but with 1 less stat on each of its stats. Does this fit into standard, John?
No, like 1 health just dies to everything. Direwolf does a very similar thing, and it buffs minions on both sides. It's even not that impactful on turn 2. Rather just play a good card on turn 2. No, it just doesn't have enough stats for that. It's like Shattered Sun Cleric, but that doesn't see play either, so I don't see it.
Reasonable. Fuel, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. It's probably about the power level of Shattered Sun Cleric. It's maybe worse. It's probably better in certain scenarios, like say an Evolve deck, but you don't play Shattered Sun Cleric, you don't even consider it. It's okay. It's fine at what it does. It's just that what it does is a little bit past its prime in Hearthstone. This would have been a better card a long time ago.
Yeah. So I'm right to understand you're both giving this like a 1 star.
Yes.
Yeah. So this isn't going to see any play in standard.
No.
Since it's not seeing play in standard, I assume it's also not going to see play in wild. Is that right, Haydon?
You're completely correct.
Okay, so we can move on to Arena. Is this card relevant in Arena, Niraj? Does it get picked?
I do think it's relevant. I think my opinion might differ from yours, but I imagine a scenario where this is probably a little better on the coin, because if you coin out a 2-drop and then you play this, you can trade into the opponent's 2-drop. Yours can survive, and then it can possibly trade up into a 3-drop. I like it in that sort of scenario, but I don't know, the stats are pretty weak, but it comes out earlier, which I like, and it kind of rewards you for being on the coin. So I'd probably give this a 3-star card. You're not going to pick it all the time because the stats are still kind of weak, but I do like the card.
I actually think that's pretty reasonable. That's kind of what I was thinking with it. I mean, the downside is obviously that it can be pinged, but if you can do that kind of tempo play with it early on, that can be the kind of thing that snowballs into the late game because of how important board's going to be in this expansion. So it has some potential in being able to make things stick, but I still think by itself it's so weak that that's going to hold it back. So I think I might give it like a 3-star.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Or maybe like a 2.5 actually. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable to me.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on to Bone Drake, which is a 6 mana 6/5
That's
dragon.
a rare.
That's a rare.
It's a rare.
Moving on to
Yeah,
the
do you
next
wanna go
card
back to that later?
because Toast's website has a lot of mistakes on it for some reason. Toast, get on that. We have Dreadscale Knight, which is a 1 mana 1/1 Murloc, and it has Lifesteal. Does the Lifesteal matter, John?
No. Like, in an aggressive Murloc deck, you don't really care about your health much, so the lifesteal doesn't matter. It also costs 1 mana. They didn't really play Murloc Tiny Fin, which costs 0 mana, and this card is worse, so no. Won't see play.
Does it see play in any other kind of deck, or literally none?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
Fuel, do you tend to agree?
Yeah, go on. There's nothing I have good to say about this card.
Hey, Dom, what are your thoughts?
So the only good Murlocs in Wild are Old Murkai, Bluegill Warrior, War Leader, and Finja. Just because that as a package is just a lot of burst and comeback. This card does not help it, so it's bad. So I'm ready to get one.
Okay. And then in Arena, do we think this can see any play, Niraj?
No, it's pretty bad. It's just a 1 mana 1/1. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, like, for this card to even be good, you're going to need a lot of Murloc synergy, and that just doesn't exist for 1, and 2.
And
You
playing this on turn 1 is just really sad. Like,
Yeah.
this is just not a good card at all.
You're almost always guaranteed to have a better time in Arena just picking a better card than trying to make this card good.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I'd give it 1 star in Arena as well.
I would as well.
Okay, so now let's move on to, how do I say this? Hildnir Frostrider. Hildnir?
Hildner
Yeah.
Frostrider.
You guys
Yeah,
play World of
sounded good to
Warcraft. Yeah, so you guys can tell me how that's pronounced. So it's a 3 mana 4/4 battle cry. Freeze your other minions. Now, does this see play in any kind of freeze deck in Standard, John?
I think it would see play in Free Shaman. The problem with that is I'm convinced that that is not very good. I don't think it sees play in any other decks because freezing your minions is very bad for you. It is a 3 mana 4/4, which is nice, but freezing your minions is a really big downside, and I don't think Free Shaman will work. So I'll give it 2 stars because it's going to see play in Free Shaman, but that's not going to be a good deck.
Sounds good. Fuel, what do you have to say about this card?
I actually disagree with John. I don't even know if I would play this in Freeze Shaman. The only synergy that exists, I believe, is Marabi
And
for
also,
this in Freeze Shaman.
yeah, actually you are right, because of the other freeze effects
Yeah.
benefit with freezing your opponent.
Right. So I don't think I'd even play this in Freeze Shaman. The one spot I can see this playing is as a 3 mana 4/4. You could potentially play it in decks that don't run many minions for there to be relatively negligible downside. For example, you could consider this in, say, Handlock because you don't really play anything on turn 2, or you could consider it in Burn Mage because it's pretty rare that your 2-drop is sticking. You could consider it. I don't think it's a 4/4 is even just good enough in most scenarios to justify it. This card's a low 2 for me. It's very unlikely to see play.
Makes sense. What about in Wild, Hadam?
So I think something that you guys are overlooking. So before I say this, I think this card's bad. But something you guys are overlooking is even like a deck like Zoo, if you freeze your other minions, going to your next turn, they're unfrozen. So you can just kind of.
Only if they haven't attacked this turn.
Oh, okay. Never mind then. Yeah, okay. This card's awful. Okay, 1 star. I was gonna say like this card's fine in Zoo. Yeah, if it's fine in like it would be fine in like Zoo otherwise. Because you can just hit and freeze your stuff. But yeah, that's not how that works. Okay.
So somebody has asked, what about in Purify Priest? I don't know if that's a meme.
I understand where they're coming from because especially in like Wild where you have Wailing Soul synergy, like you could freeze your minions then unfreeze them, but 3 mana 4/4 is just not that exciting to Purify Priest. You'd rather you have a 3 mana 4/8, right?
Especially
That's
on
just
7 when you do that combo.
So much better. Yeah, I see where they're coming from, but this doesn't offer enough to justify even using one of your silence effects.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Yeah, absolutely. And then in Wild, I think Niraj and I are quite excited about this card because this is, in my mind anyway, it's comparable to Ogre Brute, the other 3 mana 4/4 that we had. So the question is this downside about the same level as the randomly attack? What do you think, Niraj? Is he still with us?
He muted himself. Maybe forgot that.
Niraj, unmute yourself. Oh boy. Alright, so I'll talk about this card first until Niraj gets it. I think this card is really Really solid. The fact that you're getting a 3-mana 4/4 is already insane. And then we don't see a lot of good 2-drops anyway. And I don't think you really mind freezing your 2-drop because as long as it's on the board, you can make use of it later. Arena isn't really that fast that you're going to be too punished by that. So I think this card is still going to be pretty good. I don't think it's better than Ogre Brute, but I think it's just slightly below that power level, which I think means it's going to see a lot of play. I would rate this about 3 stars. Maybe 4 stars, actually. I'll rate it 4 stars in Arena. Since we have another Lord of the Arena with us, John, what do you think about this card in Arena?
I think it's fine. Like, I mean, Arena's a lot about like value trading, so like, you know, if you have a 5/1 and it's frozen, that's not really that big of a deal. They still have to like spend resources on it anyway. Frozen Crushers saw play, it froze itself, so I think it's fine. It's a 3-mana 4. That's good enough.
Pretty
Yeah,
good.
sorry, my thing disconnected for some reason.
No worries. You can talk about Frost Rider if you
sorry.
want.
I think it's decent in Arena. The closest comparison is Ogre Brute
Yep.
back then, which is a pretty decent card. The only problem is you don't really want to freeze your 2-drop too much, and then it's frozen after you attack with it on the same turn. So I don't know. I'll give this a 3-star card, but it kind of sucks in when you freeze your 1 or 2 drops.
Yeah. So I actually went 3-star and then I changed it to 4. I think I'm gonna go 3.5 because I'm somewhere in between, but it's not broken, but it's definitely a solid above average Arena pick.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now let's move on to Night Howler, and this card's a bit like a Frothing Berserker. So 4-mana 3/4. Whenever this minion takes damage, gain +2 attack. Does this see play in any kind of tempo deck? John, what do you think?
Okay, Frozen is good because A, it's 3 mana, so you get it out earlier, and it has an effect where if any minion takes damage, it gets buffed. This card is a lot closer to Aberrant Berserker, which is a 3/5. If it's enraged, it gains 2 attack, and that card saw 0 play. So this is not going to see play.
So you'd give this 1 star?
I would give it 1 star.
Fuel, what do you think about this card?
I would give this 0 stars if I could. I think it's actually straight up worse than Aberrant Berserker because you're almost never going to get multiple buffs off. This card is garbage. Move on. It's terrible.
I think the other downside of the card is like pretty much every 4-drop is going to trade into this anyway. So yeah, you're not even going to get the buff a lot of the time, unless you can proc it yourself. In which case,
it's a 5/3, which is arguably worse than a 3/4.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah. So am I to understand again? In WoD, this isn't going to see play, right, Hadom?
Yeah, you're completely correct.
Good.
Also, I do just want to mention that I believe this is actually the worst card in the set. So
I don't know. Did you see that Hunter card yesterday?
you're not wrong. Okay, there's a couple very bad cards in the set.
Cards, yes.
We'll say neutral. This is the worst card. So it only gets better from here, guys. Okay.
Okay. In Arena, what do we think of this, Niraj?
Seems pretty. I'm not very impressed with the card. It's just worse than Aberrant Berserker, like they said. So it's not impressing me. I don't think it's that good.
I feel like
I'd probably give it like 1.5. It'd be generous to give it a 2, honestly.
I was gonna say exactly the same, 1.5, because there are very, very specific situations where you might pick this, but unless you're in those specific situations, you're not gonna pick this.
Yeah,
And those situations are when you're offered Dead Scale Knight and Murloc something as the other
pretty
two.
much.
Exactly, yeah.
Grimscale Oracle, pretty much.
Yep.
Okay, moving on to the next card, we have Tuskar Fisherman, 2-mana 2/3, and its battle cry is give a friendly minion spell power +1. What do you think about this card, Fuel?
This card is interesting to me. It's not as garbage as one might think at first glance. I really liked when that Cthulhu, the 2-mana 3/2 mage card was released. I really liked that for Tempo Mage, and it ended up being pretty good, not spectacular. This is harder to use than that, but it is neutral. It's okay. I give it a 2. There's a chance that some very fringe deck will find a fringe use for it, but doesn't make it good. Having to have a minion on board as a conditional when you want to be like, playing this and AoEing or something is kind of tricky. So it has to be in a tempo deck. I don't know. It's a 2. It's okay, but it's not going to see much play.
Pretty reasonable. John, what do you think about this card? Same
I'll
as-
give it a 1 star. I don't think it will see play. It's really hard to get on board to actually get the effect. And the effect isn't even that great. Like Tempo Mage used to really like spell damage because they had Arcane Blast, insane with spell damage. But now that card's not even standard anymore, so you can't even like abuse that. I just don't think it's good.
Makes sense. In Arena, does this see play, Niraj?
It's a 2 mana 2/3, so that's good. That's already good because 2 mana 2/3s are pretty good in this meta. Well, they're what you see most commonly.
I think
they're
the point
still
is
good.
that it's a 2-drop, and we would like
Yeah,
some 2
yeah.
drops. We haven't
They're
really
good
got a lot of
stats.
them, yeah.
The effect is not too relevant unless you're playing like Mage and you want to just buff up a Flame Strike later or something. But besides that, it's not spectacular, but it's not bad. I'd probably just give it 3 stars.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat for the same reasons. Now we have our next card.
Skipping Wild, okay, sure, whatever.
Hayden, what do you think about this card in Wild? I did this yesterday. It was so bad. So sorry.
You'd rather just have Blood Mage Thalanos. This card's bad. 1 star.
Okay. So 1 star, 1.5 star standard, because Phil said potentially 2, if some deck finds a use for it. You've got 3
it's a
stars
soft 2.
for Arena. We got 1 star for Wild. Okay. So now let's move on to our next card. We have 3 mana 3/1. Vrygul? Sure. And its death rattle is, if it's your opponent's turn, summon a 2/2 when this dies. Does this see any play, John?
It's really similar to Ednapper, actually. It's the 3/1 summons 2 1/1s when it dies. The problem is like the 1/1s aren't beasts, which is a big reason why like Token Druid would play it. So I think it's a really cool card, but I don't see it play just because Ednapper saw very fringe play, only really saw play because of like this thing. So I don't will.
Also, you can get your
The 1
1/1s with Egnapper like proactively. You can trade and have
Yeah,
and buff them.
yeah. I mean, you don't trade that all, but yes,
Yeah.
it's worse than Ednapper. So no.
Fuel, what do you think about this card?
I concur. The Eggnapper is a fringe card, and Token Druid and Zoo. This card is worse because the conditional of it being on your opponent's turn and the beast thing that John mentioned. Yeah, no, this is a 1 for me. There's no chance it ever sees play over Eggnapper, and that's already not great.
Reasonable. In Arena, does this see play, Mirage?
Probably not. I don't think this is good. It's a worse Eggnapper. I'd rather have the tokens.
Eggnapper is pretty good in Arena, though, right?
Yeah, it is good. It is good, but this is like it's a 3 mana 3/1, and if you can't really trade proactively, or else it's just a 3 mana 3/1. So
well, so here's my thing with these. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off there.
Oh, you're good.
For these on the opponent's turn effects, this is the first one we've seen of these. If the death rattle is not going off, that means that this is sort of a 3 mana 3/3, right? It's got enough stats to have survived the turn because they opted not to trade with it because they didn't want to trigger the death rattle, which lets you then make your proactive trade up with a 3 attack like you would with with something else that has 3 attack. Not saying this makes this a good card, but it is a consideration that lets you trade up and then hey, this is just it's not actually a 3/1. It's better than that.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I just think that Eggnapper in general is just better than this for
Agreed.
comparisons. Probably 1.5, 2 stars in my mind. You might pick it if you really are desperate for a 3-drop. I
kind of disagree with the rating anyway. Like, I agree with a lot of the points that are being made. It's definitely a worse Eggnapper. I feel like Eggnapper was a really good card in Arena. Like, it saw play in Arena, even though it had the downside of having the ping. And I like the fact that it gives you a 2/2 kind of... I feel like a 2/2 is better than 1/1s in Arena. It's like I actually feel like this card is like average, but still better than like 1.5 stars. I'd probably give it like 2.5 stars.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree.
that's
It's
fair.
probably a mediocre card in Arena.
That's
in my
fair.
opinion.
But that's that card covered. So let's move now to.
What about Wild?
I'm being
Do we not
skipped
do
again.
wild? Do we not?
No.
We did not do Wild.
Oh my god! I'm so sorry. All right, I've got that in my mind now. Remember wild. Okay, so tell us about this
Okay.
card in wild.
Remember the
Um,
wild.
So it's going to be less about this card and more about the if it's your opponent's turn clause. I think this card is bad. Eggnapper is bad. You have better options like Equingus, but the at your opponent's or if it's your opponent's turn clause on a death rattle, I believe is just a like very bad downside. I think that all of the cards with that clause are just going to be generally worse than other cards. But yeah, it's a bad card. All of the if your opponent's turn cards, I believe, are bad. But yeah, 1 star.
Not all of them, but all the ones we're talking about today, probably.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's true.
There's that warrior card.
Yeah, the warrior
But-
card's interesting. I wouldn't call it great. I'd call it interesting. But that's about it.
I like that card, but I wasn't
I
on
do
that
too.
panel. So.
Right, so now let's move on to our next card. We have 1 mana 2/1. Acarus Veteran. I'm not saying that right, but that's the best I can do. Battle Cry, give a friendly minion +1 attack. So it's a bit like a worse version of the 2-drop that we were looking at, but it's 1 mana cheaper. So does that make it see play, Fuel?
It makes it a heck of a lot more likely to see play. 1 mana, being able to play this on turn 1, being able to play it out. I mean, 1 mana, especially when that's half the cost, that's a huge difference. This card is so much better than the Fallen Sun Cleric, rather. Is it good enough? I'm still going back and forth. I think it is. I think this might be the first card I can rate above a 3 in the neutrals. It might be the only card, not the only, but it might be one of the only ones. This card is right. It's so you think about Abusive Sergeant, right? Was overpowered. That was one of the best 1-drops in the game. And this is it's not as good, but the attack is permanent, which makes it arguably as good in a deck that expects to have and keep the board. The +1 attack helps you trade up, and if you're not trading up, you get to hit face and then keep that attack to trade up later. I think this is a strong card. Is the body good enough in the current meta? I'm not sure, but I think this will see at least some play in some top decks. I think this is a good card.
John, do you agree with that?
I think it's probably going to see play in the same decks that people say it's going to see play in like Zoo, might see play in like Shaman or something. My main problem is I don't think the stats are going to be good. So I'm going to give it like 2 stars. I think it is a decent card, but I just don't think it's going to be in your stats.
I feel like we've got a lot of removal in Constructed now that
Yeah,
that
I feel
wasn't
like
really
there's a lot of hate
around.
towards those stats.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. One consideration with this is it does feed Defile if you're playing a token deck, if it's the only 1 health thing.
Yeah, that is true. There's a lot of
I'll
weird
give
things
it
with
2
this
stars,
card.
by the
Yeah.
way. Say
Okay,
that,
2
but
stars. Haydon, what do you think about this card?
It's probably fine in Zoo, but Zoo's a bad deck, so I'm gonna rate it like a 2. The effect is fine. I think I'd rather have Abusive Sergeant though. It helps with trading up, which is good if you're going first. But that's about it. Or going second, sorry. But yeah, that's about it. I don't think it's that great. I'm gonna rate it 2
Seems
stars.
good.
Yeah.
Niraj, what about an arena?
I kind of like this card. Yeah, it feels like a little bit better version of the Sun Cleric. You can play this on like 3, maybe on a 2-drop, and then play another 2 drops, something like that. It's decent for trading up. It seems like an overall decent card, probably a 3 or 3.5 star card in my mind.
So like, I'm gonna disagree. I don't want this to be a theme, but I'm gonna disagree a little. But that might be my bias because I really don't like 1-drops in arena. But that's also because Rogue and Mage are so powerful. And I feel like is this a good enough 1-drop that I can do something with it later? Yeah, it can. I can use it to kind of get better trades, but it's not like it's health, it's attack. So I don't feel like it's going to be as useful as a lot of other cards I could be drafting.
I think it's still better for just helping trade a little bit more. But you can play the difference between this and Cleric is that you can actually play this on 1 and it's kind of acceptable. Like it's a 1 mana 2/1, which I guess it's okay, but it's not like great, but it's not terrible.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it is an above average card, but like
yeah.
Okay, maybe 3 is reasonable. Okay, I'll go with 3.
Yeah, I actually want to move. The rating system we're using here is a little bit stricter than the one I was using to pre-order my thoughts on these. We move this down to a 3 based on what we said earlier about how this rating system is working. I think this is a 3.
Okay, that's reasonable. Let's move on to the next card now. We have Venomancer, which is a 5 mana 2/5 with Poisonous. What do you think about this card, Fuel?
I think it might actually be better than my Exna because of just the 1 mana cheaper makes a big difference. 6 to 5 is a pretty big jump, especially in slower decks, which is obviously where you're trying to play this.
But then it was my Exna good.
No, it wasn't. So no, this card's still dust. But technically, I think it's better than that.
Okay, that's reasonable. John, what do you think about it?
It's not good.
Yeah, this card's awful. Like 5 mana is way too much for that.
Yeah.
If you see an aggressive deck, they just kill you. If you see a mid-range deck, it might go like 1 for 1 with a 4-drop or something, but it doesn't even have taunt. It's just not good.
Yeah.
Yeah. It might eat their 4-drop and then survive to die to Maelstrom Portal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
It's bad.
So what would you 2 rate it then?
1.
1, okay. Haydum, does this see any play in Wild, or is it the same reasons there?
It's much worse in Wild. It's contesting like the slot of Sludge Belcher, and that's a bad thing because Sludge Belcher is a good card and this isn't. So I'm just gonna rate it a 1 star and move on.
Okay. I really like this at Arena. Niraj, you have the same
I
mind.
do too.
Yeah.
I like this. Like if you think of something like Emperor Cobra, that's a pretty good 3-drop if you can trade into other 3-drops or even trade up to 4s. When you're playing this later, you can trade up higher, which I like this card a lot for that kind of purpose. And you can still maintain its health because 5 health is a good amount, so you can still maintain it if you trade it into 4s or other 5s. You can still probably maintain it, so I like it.
I think the key thing with Poisonous cards is you don't look at their attack, because their attack is completely pointless because they have Poisonous. So you look at their health, and this is a 5 mana card with 5 health. So that's already pretty reasonable. That's already what you expect from a 5-drop. The attack on this card could be 11 and it wouldn't matter because it's killing whatever it deals damage to. So
well, it would matter if it was 11 because then you could
because then you could send it face. Okay, but in terms of trading on the board is kind of what I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
This card does control the board. So
it's good to get 2 trades, and that's good because you're killing 2 minions off, which is nice. So
yeah,
I like this.
I think
It only has 5 health though. Yeah, it can't be more than much above average though.
Yeah, I mean I would give it 3.5.
I would too.
Yeah, I think this is going to see not as much play as like Wasp or Snail, but it's going to see about as much play, or maybe a bit more play than Emperor Cobra.
Yeah.
Moving on to the next card, we have Skelemancer, which is a 5 mana 2/2 Death Rattle. If it's your opponent's turn, summon an 8/8 skeleton. John, what do you think about this card?
It's like cool. I mean, it makes your deck resistant to AoE and stuff, but you want to run this in like a really slow, let's say like N'Zoth deck or something. But then your problem with that deck is you lose the aggro, and this card's awful for aggro. It's good as like an anti-control deck, assuming that they're not playing Priest. It's just really situational.
Yeah, you don't
not
want to
good
give
enough to
this
play.
to Priest.
Yeah.
Fuel, do you have anything more you would add to this?
I'm not even sure I'd play this card if it had taunt. This card is bad. You just get ignored, right? You have to. Some people are trying to argue with me that you have to you can curve into Spike Ridge Steed. I'm like, what if you just curve Bolvar the Fireblood into Spike Steed, like that has a lot of health. That's better than the 8/8 skeleton against aggro. Even like, it's not good. This card's bad.
Makes sense. Hayden,
Even
what
in
do
the
you
best case scenarios, it's not good.
Yeah. Hayden, what do you think about this card? Does it fit into any N'Zoth deck?
No, not at all. The reason that you use Death Rattle or N'Zoth in control decks is it gives you a wall, and all of the cards are good on curve. You don't ever mind playing a Sludge Belcher on 5. Cards like Skellymancer, you do care about playing on 5 because you're playing a 5-mana 2/2 and wondering why it's in your deck. It's not worth playing. Even in like decks like mid-range, which you actually care if they can AoE you, you have like Steward and stuff like that. And this is also contesting the slot of Quartermaster, which is how you win the game. So I don't believe this is going to see any play. I rate it 1 star.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is that in 90% of scenarios, right, they just ignore it and you deal 2 damage to their face and they laugh at you for paying 5 damage for 5 mana for that.
Niraj, what about in Arena? What do you think of this guy?
I was interested about this at first, but then you realize it's a 5-mana 2/2. Like, even Devil Sword Egg could even be better because you can activate it. Like, I don't know. You have to play this into a board where you're going to get AoE'd. But
yeah, the thing about the egg is that you can buff that or you can eat it and you still get it when you turn. Like,
yeah, but you have to play this.
Yeah, go on, sorry.
You pretty much only play it into a board where you're maybe going to get AoE'd. It's not something you can really... this has some application with buff cards, but I don't know. It doesn't seem that good because you're paying a 5-mana 2/2 for it.
Okay, so here's my thoughts on this card. Play this, play Doomsayer, Treachery, Prophet. That's pretty much the only way I see this card ever getting out. Because your opponent's never going to kill this. Absolutely never.
They just ignore this. They just ignore it. You go face.
Yeah.
You can't do anything.
Yeah.
So I feel like this is a really terrible card in Arena. Like,
I'll
there
give
is
this
like 1.5 maybe, because there's the argument that, okay, if your opponent AoEs, but I don't know how relevant that is, honestly.
It's not super relevant. I'd give it a 1.5 as well.
Yeah. All right, so moving on to the next card, we have Grave Shambler, which is a 4-mana 4/4 elemental, and whenever your weapon is destroyed, gain +1/+1. What do you think about this card, Fuel?
It's got almost vanilla stats. Not that vanilla stats really means that much in Constructed these days. The one house I can possibly see for this card is Rogue, because in Rogue, you pretty much get, every time you hero power, this gains +1/+1, right?
Yeah.
So it could grow. It could, become a 4-mana 6/6 on by 6 if you've had down for 2 turns without it dying. So yeah, when Elemental Rogue becomes a thing and Rogue does lack 4 drops, then you could look at this card. But it's just too slow to keep up with the pace of Constructed play, especially in Rogue, who needs to be really moving pretty blisteringly to keep up for the lack of having healing and really great minions.
I feel like another thing with
I can't see this in any other class.
Yeah, I feel like before we had the changes to the 4-mana Jade neutral, what's it called? Jade Spirit. Before we had the changes to Jade Spirit that made it an elemental, you could have argued maybe putting this in Elemental Shaman just because it really lacked something to do on 4. But now you've got Jade Elemental, which I think you would always run over something like this. So it's really hard to see where this would be played, even though the stats are decent. What do you think, John?
It seems like an Arena card to me. I wouldn't play this in Constructed.
Yeah.
This does seem like a pretty great Rogue Arena card. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Hey, Dom, what do you think about this card? Same thing?
4-mana 4/4s with no text are bad and wild. Also, in Rogue, this is contesting Tomb Pillager, which I don't know why you'd run this over Tomb Pillager.
Yeah, that's fair.
I missed that card.
We all miss that
Should
card.
play Wild.
Same.
Wild's the best format.
Everyone misses Tomb Pillager, man. That was
Yeah.
a good card.
But we don't miss it enough to go play Wild, clearly.
Yeah.
Why?
Alright, let's hear about this card for Arena. Niraj, what do you think about this guy?
It's pretty interesting. I think what like John said, what Fuel said, rogues with the daggers. If you use those charges up, you can buff this up a little bit. But I don't know. Outside of rogue, you can put this in a weapon class, maybe like warrior. But you have to have exact situations where you proc your weapon and then play this.
You could also
So-
kind of argue for Paladin as well, but
Yeah, for Paladin, but it was just an example.
yeah.
But you can play this in a weapon class, but it's mostly a good rogue card. But besides that, it's just a 4-mana 4/4 and stuff like Druid where they don't really have weapons. So
It's still a decent card, yeah. A 4-mana 4/4 is
Yeah.
always going to be relevant.
yeah,
Yeah.
it feels like something along the lines of Backroom Bouncer, just a 4-mana 4/4 to fill curve for some classes.
Okay.
I'd probably give this a 2.5, maybe 3. It's
Yeah,
eh.
I would give it a 3. I think just because I think there's because of the changes to the weapon
Yeah.
offerings. Like you see a lot of weapons right now. I think
Yeah.
that still should be relevant in the next expansion, just because it's an offering on weapons in general. So I think you're still going to see them, even though like the other expansions are going to get offered less. You're still going to see those weapons come up now and then.
right,
Yeah.
right.
So yeah, that's our thoughts on this card. Good in Arena, probably won't see play elsewhere. Moving on to the next card, we have Tainted Zealot, 2-mana 1/1, Divine Shield, spell damage. What do we think of this card, Fuel?
The Tainted Zealot. This card, I started out pretty down on this card, and I'm slowly coming around a little. There are a couple applications for this card. The Rogue could consider it. Divine Shields have traditionally been decent in Rogue, and they don't have oil anymore, but they still have Cold Bloods. And of course, spell damage is wonderful in Rogue. So, for example, right, you're gonna most likely, depending on the meta, but usually you're playing Thalanos in Rogue, and traditionally when like on Ask Hearthstone, right, when someone asks, I don't have Thalanos, what do I replace it with? We've told them either Kobold Geomancer or Loot Hoarder. I think this card is better than Kobold Geomancer for sure in Rogue. So there's that. Is it good enough to see play in actual, constructed decks where you could be playing all the cards you opt to? I'm not sure. It has some synergy with Defile, similar to Thalanos, where if you Defile and it kills a 2 health minion, then this will die on the second cast, and you'll have dealt 4 damage. And then will go again for 5. So it's got some synergy there. It's an interesting card. I think I have it rated as a 2. It's got some cool potential, but it's probably not good enough just because the stats are pretty bad.
Yeah. Smoke, would you agree with that?
I'll give it all 1 star. I think Thalanos is just better than this card.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
don't think you ever
play
run
this
this
spell
over
damage that
Thalanos,
much.
but
Yeah. Hayden, what do you think?
It's just not Blood Mage Thalanos. Also, I do want to mention that with all of the printing of Blood Mage Thalanos-like cards, they might be Hall of Faming Thalanos. Something worth considering.
Please no.
But yeah,
they would have told us by now.
I need him. Okay. He was like one of my
But yeah,
first
Yeah,
let's
if they
games.
Hall of Fame Thalanos, this card is better.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, maybe that's the out. Maybe Thalanos gets HOF'd and then the card's okay. But yeah, 1 star.
Yeah.
Yeah. In Arena, does this see play Niraj?
It's probably not. It's just a 2-mana 1/1 on turn 2. That's just pretty unfortunate. There's not like too much synergy besides maybe a few AoEs, but besides that, you don't like playing this on turn 2 at all.
Yeah.
It's just not.
I think literally the only upside of this card is you can say it trades twice into a 3/2, and we don't even have 3/2s. So it's
Yeah,
really
there's literally
garbage.
there were no 3/2s printed in this expansion, like
So this
for
is just
2 drops.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is bad.
I'd probably
The
give
one
this
thing
one
I will
star.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
The one thing I will say about Arena is that since we're seeing so many buffs, so much importance placed on keeping a minion around, Divine Shield, I think, is gaining priority overall in Arena. Is this card good enough? Not really, but as a Divine Shield, there's at least that consideration.
I think that's a good point, actually, to make. So, hopefully, we can see some more Divine Shields, because I haven't actually seen all the cards in this list, so that would be cool. Now let's move on to the next card. We have Spell Weaver, 6 mana, 4/4, spell damage +2. So it's comparable to Evolved Kobold? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So is this good? John, what do you think?
I'm gonna say no. Like for the spell damage +2 on Evolved Kobold, you want to like play a bunch of spells and kill your opponent. This just makes it harder to do that. The stats don't really matter that much. If it was like a 6 mana 6/6 with spell damage +2, it'd be good. But it's in like an awkward place of having bad stats for a 6 drop and like spell damage. It just doesn't fit anywhere.
What do you think, Fuel?
Yeah, even as a 6 mana 6/6 with spell damage +2, it might still be bad. It's just not good.
I don't think I would play this as a 6 mana 6/6 with spell damage +2. Evolved Kobold saw a little bit of fringe play because the spell damage was added to a cheap-ish minion, so you could combo a bunch of spells after it. Even that was usually when Emperor Thorson and it existed in Standard at the same time. This card is so much more expensive, so much clunkier, for no extra value on the body. This is just awful. This is straight dust.
Yeah. Haydam, do you agree?
Yeah. So the body on Evolved Kobold could be a 1/1 and it would not matter. In Wild, Evolved Kobold is used in Freeze Mage to just like 30 to 0 people. The body does not matter. It having a bigger body, this card, it does not matter. It costing more mana does. You don't care about this card. It's bad. You'd rather just run Kobold.
True. And Niraj, we think this card is pretty bad in Arena as well.
Yeah, understanded for a 6 drop. Not much else to say.
Yeah, stats matter. So let's move on to the next card. Oh, well, we'll give that 1.
Yeah.
So now we have 1 mana 1/1 Wretched Tiller. When this minion attacks, deal 2 damage to the enemy hero. John, what do you think about this card?
We have a card called Leopard Gnome, which sees 0 play, and this card is worse than Leopard Gnome, so it's not going to see play either.
Yeah. Fuel, do you agree?
I do. There's the argument to be made that this card can do a heck of a lot more damage than Leopard Gnome if it gets a couple attacks in. But at that point, I say, why aren't you playing, something with more attack that's just doing that damage anyway? This card is probably, I would say, on average, getting about the same amount of damage as Leopard Gnome. I would say probably 0, 2, and 4 is going to be pretty even if you're playing this in a straight-up aggro deck. But variance is worse than consistency, and Leopard Gnome's already trash, so no chance. This is dust.
Sounds good. And Haydam, is this trash and wild?
Yep.
Okay. So all of you are guessing you're going to rate this 1 star.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Niraj, we think this is pretty bad in Arena as well, right?
Yeah, this is... You don't draft Leopard Gnome. You don't draft this. That's all you have to say.
Yeah, you don't care about face damage in Arena. You care about getting control of the board, and that's going to be what does damage to face. You're not going to get it through effects like these.
And this doesn't help you control board. It's just a 1/1. That's
Exactly.
just bad.
Yeah.
So we can move on to Wicked Skeleton, which is a 4 mana 1/1. Battlecry. Gain +1/+1 for each minion that died this turn. Fuel, what do you think?
I think you need, on average, to get 4 or 5 buffs from this. It needs to be like a 5/5 or a 6/6 on average to cancel out the inconsistency and the ability to be silenced. And that is a seriously tall order. On the same turn, you could be drawing 4 or 5 cards with Cult Master, which is, that's a lot.
Yeah.
For this kind of conditional is unbelievably hard to fulfill consistently for not that big of a reward. This card is awful.
Yeah, because you're the only reason you would play this card is if it gave you a tempo advantage, and it's so much to ask. Like, a normal 4/4 is going to be more consistent than this. So why would you ever run this?
Far more
Yeah.
consistent.
John, do you have anything you'd like to say about this?
No, it's awful.
Awful. So 1 star from all of you.
Yes.
Hey, Dom, what do you think about this?
You'd rather run Cult Master, so
Yep.
1 star.
1 star. Arena, this is pretty bad. You don't go wild.
Trash.
Yeah.
Trash.
Really
Move
bad.
on.
1 star.
Get away
us
from
as
this
well.
card quickly.
Okay. Moving on to the next card, we have Grim Necromancer, which is a 4-mana 2/4 battlecry summon 2/1/1 skeletons. So you kind of conserve the tempo through the skeletons, but it reminds me of like a Dragon Link mechanic. So what do you think about this card, Smork?
Yeah, it's bad. The 2 attack doesn't really kill anything. You'd probably rather it be on 1 body, actually. Like, you can say, oh, it's good in a token deck, but you'd rather just play like a bunch of 1 and 2 cost cards in that deck. It just isn't good.
Yeah. Fuel, do you have anything to say about this?
Yeah, it's better than Dragon Link mechanic.
It is.
But past that, I mean, like it's sort of a mid-rangey card, right? If you were playing like a mid-rangey token deck, you could consider it, but then you'd probably just be playing Violet Teacher. We're gonna look at Serenite Chain Gang later, and I think you'd play that in a token deck any day over this card. I think, yeah, it's outclassed and it's pretty darn mediocre, even if it wasn't. So I'm giving it a 1. Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 1.
Yeah, I'll give it 1 as well.
What do you think, Hayden?
It's better. It's better. Oh, sorry, it's better than
That's
most
fine.
of the ones we've given because it's like mediocre at least, but it's not good enough to see play, so it's still a 1.
Okay, that's fair.
Sorry, go on.
What do you think, Hayden?
In Wild, we have better eggs. You'd rather just play like actual eggs, or like this is a token druid card for sure. And in that deck, we have oozes, we have eggs and stuff like that. This card does not have a spot, so I'm rating 1 star.
Makes sense. Niraj, what about an arena? Is this card ever picked?
Not too often. I wouldn't think this is a good card. It's not a great card. It's like you pick the mechanic like sometimes if you're seriously lacking in 4s. This doesn't really trade up in any 4 drops, so it's pretty bad.
Yeah, I would actually say, I mean, it's better than Dragon Link mechanic, but not enough that it would see any kind of.
Yeah. It's like
they're still on
it's
the
only
same
like
pick rate basically, because it's not even that much better.
it's like slightly better, but it's not enough to justify picking this often.
Yeah, like I would expect to see this maybe like 2 points above Dragon Link mechanic, like at most.
Yeah.
Between 1 to 2 points. I don't think it's that much better. Yeah.
No, it's not that good.
Yeah. All right, so now let's move on to Bloodworm, which is a 5-mana 4/4 lifesteal, and it's a beast. We'll see if that makes a difference. Smork, what do you think about this?
It's bad. Like, you would say, oh, it's an anti-aggro tool, but like it doesn't have taunt, so you just go face and you're dead. It doesn't even like for it to be good, it has to heal like 8, so it's like heal bot, but that's unrealistic, so it's just not a card.
Fuel, what do you think? Oh,
Sorry.
That's okay.
Hey. Yeah. You're talking to me?
Yeah.
Sorry,
What do you think about the Bloodworm?
I think it is bad. Lifesteal needs something else to make it viable, right? Like, say, Taunt and Divine Shield, or maybe Charge, or even just Taunt if it's on a decent body. But this isn't a decent body, and they're just going to ignore it. And yeah, it's bad.
Makes
1
sense.
star.
Yeah, it's like a 5-mana 4/4 heal 4 in the best case scenario, because it's never going to get 2 for 1 and doesn't have taunt.
That's reasonable. What about in Wild? Hey, Dom. I mean, you have anti-kill bot, so
Yeah, we have heal bot. I will say though, this is the buff that Quest Paladin needed. Think about it. This into Steed, it's busted. No, okay. This card's bad.
Oh,
It's
you
interesting.
had us
About
it.
it. 1 star. Yeah.
Yeah. What do we think in Arena, Niraj?
Fair, pretty understandard for a 5 drop. The lifesteal won't matter most of the time. It's not that
Yeah, I agree with that. I think like 1.5. Because you
Yeah.
do sometimes pick 5-mana 4/4s when you're really desperate. Like I can think of a
Like-
few times I've picked Cult Apothecary. I'd probably put this as a slightly worse yeah, slightly worse Cult Apothecary. So it might see like a little play when you're trying to curve out.
Like if you're super desperate for a curve, then you'll pick this. But
Yeah.
like
but you never
besides
pick it
that-
otherwise. Yeah.
yeah.
It's like 1.5.
Or if it's against two terrible cards.
It should
Yeah.
really be 4 mana. I don't know why it's
Yeah.
5 mana.
It should be, yeah. Yeah, it's just not a very good card. Alright, so that's all of the neutrals done. Shall we just each of us pick one neutral that we think is the most impactful? So we can start with Smork. What do you think is the most impactful neutral?
Boy,
Wait,
Neutral common, sorry.
common. Probably Bone Mare. I think it actually fits in mid-range decks. Yeah, it's pretty no. We'll go with Cobalt Scalebane. I think it fits in like the Curator mid-range faster decks. I think it's actually a good card. Yeah, we'll go with that.
Fuel, what do you think?
I want to say Icarus Veteran. Realistically, Scalebane's probably because that's kind of got a niche built in for it. Bone Mare, Icarus Veteran, or Cobalt Scalebane's my pick. I guess Cobalt Scalebane's a safe choice, but no, I'm going with Icarus Veteran. Just I have faith.
Sounds good. Hayden, what do you think?
Bone Mare or Death Speaker for Wild.
Seems good. Niraj, what do you think? In Arena,
Yeah,
what's
it's
the most
either
impactful?
it's either Bone Mar or Scalebane. Both Bone Mar more than Scalebane because that card's really insane in Arena.
I feel like I'd probably go with Bone Mare as well. That card is so good in Arena.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's it from us. Now we can. Oh, so yeah, like a couple people were quite sad to hear that there were so many 1-star cards. We really weren't given that many great cards, but the few that were good, I think were really good. Like Bone Mare is just really impactful. Scalebane's really impactful. So it's kind of like a trade-off, I guess.
I mean, most of the neutral commons are not that impactful in these types of sets.
Yeah, one thing I will bring up is there doesn't appear to be any clear winner for the small time Buccaneer award, where
that's
just the neutral common that's just stealthily overpowered. Last set it was Rockpool Hunter. There's no clear winner here. None of them.
Yeah.
No Flipper Penguin.
It's
No
Penguin
for
for sure.
Penguin. It's gonna dominate the meta. Please nerf.
All right, if we're going for the cuteness award though, it's got to be Happy Ghoul. So
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Happy Ghoul?
Yeah. Have you seen how happy he is?
he's very happy.
He's
That's
so
nice.
happy.
Okay.
All right. Well okay. Let's
Wait, we can move on to rares now. Okay, so
Yeah.
let's go look at the first one, 3-mana 3/1, Shallow Gravedigger, Death Rattle. Add a random Death Rattle minion to your hand. What do you think, Fuel?
It's garbage. Death rattles are pretty inconsistent. There's like a few good ones you want to put in like N'Zoth decks, but then you don't want to be diluting your pool really. This card has abysmal stats. It's super slow for not that big of a reward. It's a 1.
Okay. What do you think, John? Do you agree?
Yeah, it's awful. Even at 2 mana, it probably wouldn't see play. At 3 mana, it's just terrible.
So that bad. What do you think, Hayden?
Yes.
In the format of good Death Rattles, this card is still terrible.
Because you may
If
as well
that
just
gives
run
you
those
any-
good ones.
Yeah, you might as well just run the Death Rattles instead of discovering one. Also, like, it's just the 3-mana 3/1. You don't like those. Those are bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a 1-star.
What about in Arena, Niraj?
This card it's interesting to think about. Like I see it again looking at Eggnapper, but it doesn't summon the tokens, it just gives you a Death Rattle instead. The only difference is that they can just ping this and then just keep going, but you're kind of just playing a little bit slower. I don't know. And the Death Rattle pool isn't like that great to the point where you'd want to really pick this in Arena. I don't think this is going to be very good.
I think this card is it is below average, but I don't think it's terrible.
Well, it's not trash, but I think it's still you pick this sometimes, but I don't think it's like something that's going to be like it's not average, really.
Yeah, I also think that value is going to be kind of less important in this meta, but it's still going to be relevant. So I might give this like 2 stars because I don't think it's going to be completely trash, but it's
That's where I was going with that.
Yeah, there's just so many better things that you would pick over a card like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we can move on to the best card in the set. I feel like I could have made like a really cool like Morgan Freeman picture to put on top of this just to show how good this card is, but Tickling Abomination, 4 mana, 5/6. Death Rattle will deal 5 damage to your minions. Phil, what do you think about this guy?
Yeah.
Careful what you say. Reddit's not going to forgive you.
Hey, no, this card is wonderful as our new meme overlord of the set, and right. So it just in my mind, right, the first 12 hours are just the you know the sound that you hear in like movies where there's just a ticking clock, and that's the only sound where you're just like trying to like tick, tick, tick. Where are the cards? To me, that's Ticking Abomination in my head. It's great. It's not a particularly competitive card though. Decks that want to run a 5/6 body for 4 are decks that want to beat you down with their board, and decks that want to beat you down with their board are really sad when a 5 damage AoE lands on their, and they're really extra sad when they're doing it to themselves.
Yeah. My question to John is: does this see any play in like a Purify Priest?
I mean, you'd rather just play like your 3 mana 4/8 too. Like it's even too slow for that deck, honestly.
Just play Humongous Razor Leaf and you're fine.
Play Razor Leaf. Yeah, the Death Rattle doesn't really matter that much. I mean, even there, you still play like you play North Shard, you play Radiant Elemental. You still have a board. But yeah, it's just not that deck. Yeah, it's just bad.
There are better things.
It needs to be like a 7/7 or something, then it'd be okay. At 5/6, bad.
That makes sense. What about in Wild, Hayden?
All right, think about the synergy with Barnes and Reincarnate. This card's absolutely busted. No, okay, this card's bad.
It's a good.
You play this. You play this if you want your deck to be bad, which I mean, okay, yeah, it's a 1-star.
Hayden, I'm glad we invited Reddit onto this review stream.
We're not here to make your decks bad though, so
yeah.
Yeah, pretty bad in both constructed formats. What do we think in Arena, Niraj?
Where we were going with this is going to be more of a board centric Arena meta. So this is an abomination, pretty much.
Yeah, I see what
you get it because its name is Ticking Abomination.
But yeah, like Niraj is right. I think you don't want cards that destroy your board. You want stuff to live. So yeah, it's not.
It's just not good. Not good.
Like the only good thing I can think with this card is that you do kind of. It's good like when you're behind and you play this card because then you don't care about like what you're killing, and you can start contesting your opponent's board. But when you're drafting, you don't draft as if you're going to lose the board.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I kind of don't like about it. Like I feel like. Maybe if you're doing a really bad draft and you're just like, God, I really need something in this deck, then maybe you pick this because you're like, well, I'm not going to have the board anyway. But firstly, I think that a lot of people are going to find that really hard to judge. And I feel like, yeah, that's also a really niche situation that you would pick this.
The other problem is that even if you try to do that, you can't even develop behind it until this is cleared. So
yeah, and it has way too much health. Like, it's... right, not that sort, but like, well, yeah, actually, it is the fact that it has the health because it's going to live on the board next turn.
Exactly.
And then you can't play your next minion.
Pretty much.
Like
I think we're spending too much time on Ticking Abomination.
Yeah, it's just the fact that it takes way too long. straps you down.
Yeah. Yep.
Turns on the clock. Let's move on to the next card, Mindbreaker. This is a really cool effect. We've not seen anything like this before. It's a 3 mana 2/5, and hero powers are now disabled. John, what do you think about this card?
I mean, it's cool that hero powers are disabled, but that really doesn't matter most of the time. It doesn't really have great stats. I don't think we'll see play. It just doesn't do anything to really fit anywhere. Cool card, though.
Yeah. What do you think, Fuel?
Yeah, there's an argument to be made that in a meta where you're facing lots of decks that rely pretty heavily on their hero powers, say a couple Death Knights and Face Hunter, this card could be a niche pick to help counter both of those. But the stats aren't abysmal, right? It's got pretty good survivability. It's maybe can accept buffs okay. But I just don't see a world being super likely where disabling hero powers creates that big of an issue for the average deck.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's good.
Hey, Dom, what do you think?
Okay, so I have a hard time evaluating all tech cards. This card, especially in Wild, the format is actually slow enough to actually make this card actually have some merit. In like a Reno Mage versus Reno Lock or whatever matchup, or maybe not Reno Lock, but a control deck that relies on the hero power, maybe like Taunt Warrior or something like that. Playing this and it basically saying that, or basically forcing the opponent to answer it with some of their removal in hand, which is extremely limited and also very crucial in a control matchup, could make this card very strong. I believe this card has quite a bit of potential, actually, as just a control versus control. If it's a heavy control meta, I think you could just put this in your deck and it would be a good card. It forces removal, and it's a hard body to remove. So I'm going to give it like 3 stars, honestly. It's not a bad card. It's also a very good deck card.
So, in my mind, the biggest merit to this card is it does really well against Taunt Warrior, but Taunt Warrior has ways of dealing with this from hand, so that's why this card can't really tech against that. Some other people are saying killing Jiraxis is hero power. Even then, like, Reno Lock has ways to deal with this on board, so you can't...
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that it would be fine if they use that removal.
Right,
Because
forcing
forcing the removal out of their hand is very good. But
yeah, on a 3-drop instead of your 7-drop is a big deal.
Right, because in a lot of those matchups, like, you're preparing your removal for certain things, because you know what their deck has.
You're in control versus control. 1, your threats are limited, and 2, your removal is limited.
Yeah.
You have to be able to apply pressure at all states of the game, and you have to be able to remove their pressure. That is literally what a control matchup is in Wild. If you're able to do that, then you're going to win that game. This card, forcing removal, is incredibly strong, I believe.
Okay, so you're giving it 3
Only
stars.
against very specific decks, though.
Yes.
So you're giving it 3 stars in Wild. John and Fuel, what did you guys give this?
I'll give it a 1 star. I don't see that work in Standard.
I gave it a soft 2. It's very unlikely to see play in Standard, but there is a chance. So basic 2 is like the super, super niche rating, right? Where there's a tiny chance that it could see play. Tiny. In some hypothetical fantasy land. So I give it a soft 2.
The key thing is kind of, this is good in a control matter, I think, is one of the other things.
Yeah. Well, it's a good control meta, and specifically a certain control meta with certain
specific
decks.
one, yeah.
It could be good in a meta where Death Knights are more prevalent. But
exactly.
Yeah, that's true.
Could be.
Well,
that would be a pretty slow
Death
meta.
Knights are.
But Reddit told me this meta is going to be a control meta. So
that's nice.
let's just not imagine a control meta. I just don't want to.
Let's move on to Arena then. This card's pretty good in Arena.
I'm pretty interested by this. Disabling pings is pretty good if you're disabling like the rogue dagger or the mage ping, stuff like that. The only problem I can see with this is that a 2/5 isn't trading into 2-drops now because most of them are 2/3s, and it's not trading into 3-drops because they're mostly 4/3s. So that's the only issue I can see in terms of stat lines. But
But it does trade
disabling
into them
pings-
over 2 turns though, which isn't terrible.
Yeah. It's not terrible, but it's not great. But
Yeah. I think
disabling ping is pretty interesting. It's a cool mechanic.
I think there's like some application to this. If you like do a trade, then you play this down versus a mage, and the mage is like, oh, what do I do? Like they have to use removal on it maybe, in order to ping the other guy. So it's like not terrible in that situation. But then like versus those classes, you don't really care about using your hero powers early, and like Rogue is going to use their hero power on 2 before this comes out, and it's still got it.
And then the dagger will usually just be it'll be preserved through those turns. So it's usually
So it's like a really skillful card, but like it's going to be really hard to use in Arena to actually make use of it.
I'll give it probably 2 or 2.5. I think that's reasonable.
I think I might give it a, because I still think it can contest minions on the board. Like I think 2/5 is a good stat line in itself, just because the health makes up for the fact that the attack is lower. So I think I might give it a 3 or a 3.5. But in the hands of a good Arena player is what I'm thinking. Because this is a really hard card to use. Like this is probably going to be one of the hardest cards to use in Arena. Yeah. Alright, so we can move on.
It also has the ugliest art of the set.
It does.
Yeah, that is pretty.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. We'll move on to the next card. Phantom Freebooter, 4-mana, 3/3 pirate. Battlecry gains stats equal to your weapons. It's a pirate. Does it see play in Pirate Warrior? John, what do you think?
Maybe. The problem is it's really bad without a weapon, right? It's a 4-mana 3/3. It's awful. Like Naga Corsair is a lot better without a weapon, for example. If you have a weapon though, like let's say you have a 2/3 weapon equipped, it's suddenly a 5/7. Or a 5/6. That's really good for a 4-drop, especially in aggressive deck. Is it better than Naga Corsair? I'm not really sure. So I'll give it 3 stars because it might see fringe play in Pirate Warrior.
But that's kind of your lower bound, right? Because you're quite a conservative rate.
Yeah, it could be, you know, 1 or 2 of an all Pirate Warriors, but I don't see that very likely.
Okay.
I think it's going to see some fringe play. It's going to be like Naga Corsair, very similar. See some fringe play.
What do you think, Fuel?
I disagree. I think that this card will not see play in any Pirate Warriors. This card is so bad if you don't have a weapon. And if you do, is it if you do have a weapon and that weapon only has 1 charge, it's still basically like almost strictly worse than Naga Corsair. If the weapon is 2 charges,
it's the same as Naga Corsair if you have 1
it
charge.
is, but Naga Corsair buffs the weapon. If you have a weapon with 2 charges, then it gets up to 5 health and it becomes harder to remove. But then Naga Corsair deals 2 extra damage to them with the buff to the weapon. And then of course, so that's the good scenario. The best scenario for this card, right, is if you've been buffing your the Nazos First Mate weapon all game.
Then it's
and this is like, and you have like a 3/4 weapon or something somehow. And this becomes a 4-mana 6/7, then it's pretty insane. But I think those scenarios are so fringe that they're way more than balanced out by the times that this is a 4-mana 3/3. I think Naga Corsair isn't even played that much, right? It's sometimes a 1-of.
It's a 1-of.
Yeah, and I think this card is in pretty much every scenario going to be almost or just strictly worse than Naga Corsair. I give this card a 2 at best. I'm leaning towards 1.
I know you guys keep comparing it to Naga Corsair, but I keep comparing it to the other 4-mana 3/3 in Pirate Warrior that needs
Dread Corsair costs 0, which is a big deal.
Yeah.
0 cost cards are insane.
Right, but what I'm thinking is like this card isn't as good as Dread Corsair.
No, of
absolutely
course
not.
No.
So like
if it's the same slot, your deck is not Sarah, though. That's the
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's
Do
why
you-
we're comparing.
But do
Right,
you
yeah.
but do you want more situational cards like that though?
No.
You have too many of those already in that deck.
Yeah.
In my
Yeah.
opinion.
So I feel like when you're
The thing is whether or not you have a weapon on turn 4 consistently.
because I don't feel like
Mhm.
Naga Corsair is the spot that you take out for this card. I feel like it would be the other situational card, and I feel like that's better.
Oh,
I agree.
there.
Or well, I don't think you're taking. Yeah, I don't think you're ever taking out
Yeah,
Dread
you never
Corsair.
did not, Sarah.
Yeah.
This card's a 1. I don't. It's a strong one, but I don't see it seeing play at all.
Okay. John, do you still stick with your estimation?
Yeah, I think I still think it's play.
Okay.
I mean, it depends. I don't know the stats for how often you have a weapon on turn 4. Also, people they like to swing into face on turn 2 or whatever. You can always save your dagger for this. You swing into a minion once and then you get a 7/4 or whatever. And in Pirate Warrior, they might have used removal on some of your smaller minions, and they just can't get with it.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's a lot more high, not Sarah.
But I feel like this is one of the more interesting cards. That's why we're spending a bit more time on it.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is. It is interesting.
Yeah. So we skipped over a lot of neutrals very quick because they were bad. This is a good card that they made. I like that they made this. Yeah. But let's hear about it in Wild. Haydam.
Hey, they printed Salty Dog with a condition.
Yeah, I
bad.
guess so.
It's really bad.
You play this on your Deathbite? Yeah, or your True Silver?
Yeah,
Fun.
It's a Salty Dog with a condition. Really bad.
Seems too slow for Wild Pirate Warrior.
Plus, we have Ship's Cannon, so you die on.
Yeah, that's
turn
the thing.
5. Yeah,
it's slow because of cannon existing.
The difference between Standard and Wild is that we just have Ship's Cannon and you die on turn 4 or 5, and you don't want to be playing this on the turn they're dying.
And you also play Deathbite on 4, which is much better.
This card's just bad.
Yeah, that deck is so crammed, you wouldn't be able to find place.
The weird part about Wild Pirate Warrior is literally 29 out of 30 of the cards are auto-include. There is one flex slot, which is Arcanite Reaper, Spellbreaker, or Leroy, I believe.
Yes.
Maybe not Leroy. But, the deck is so tight, you don't want any of the cards gone. This card's not good. It's a 1-star for Wild.
What do we think in Arena, Niraj?
I see the application in Rogue, obviously, just with the dagger. This seems pretty decent. But besides that, you'd have to draft a lot of synergy to make this work.
Yeah, I feel like this is a Rogue card.
If you miss this, it's really bad.
Yeah.
4-mana 3/3 is kind of unfortunate. So
Right. Even in Rogue, it's basically a 4-mana. It's basically a Yeti, right? That can be silenced, and also you have to set up the dagger ahead of time.
I mean,
Yeah, but Yeti is
Silence
good.
doesn't really exist. Yeah, Silence doesn't exist in Arena right now.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's bad, but it's not. I wouldn't say this is a good card. I'd say this is average, maybe in Rogue.
I mean, Yeti's a good card.
I think this is above average in Rogue, but I think it's bad in everything else.
All right.
But yeah.
Not a
see
good card though.
I see. Yeah. Overall, it's probably but in Rogue, this is good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you give it out of 5, Niraj? We just do it for Rogue because we're not going to rate it for any other class. We think it's bad in those.
Pretty much.
So what would you rate it in Rogue, in Arena?
For Rogue, I'd probably give this 3.5. I'm willing to say. I'd say 3.5, maybe 4. It's a bit. It's actually, yeah.
I'd go with 3.5 or 4 because you have other weapons that you can get in Rogue as well. So yeah, there's good things you can do with this, especially since this comes after most of your weapons. It comes after Perdition and the new 3-drop weapon that you're playing. So I feel like it's a bit better than it looks in Rogue Arena. I think 3.5 to 4 is reasonable.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah. So now let's look at the next card. We have Corpse Razor, 5-mana 3/3, Battle Cry. Give a friendly minion Death Rattle, resummon this minion. So it's an Ancestral Knowledge on a stick. But Ancestral Knowledge was already on a stick that you played for 2 mana. So
Ancestral Secret, but yes.
Yeah. So what do you think about this card, Fuel?
I think it's too clunky for constructed use. I think the effect's pretty decent, and a deck like Taunt Druid could maybe consider it, where you're ramping out a big thing. you trade it in, and you get a big thing back because you played this +3. This becomes like a 5 mana. Say you like on turn 4, you innervated out the 5/7 taunt that came from the Cthulhu decks, and then you get then you play this on 5, trade that in, and you get like a 5 mana 3/3 and 5/7 taunt. Like, there are applications, but it's clunky. It's really hard to play on the same turn as something, which you could do with the Shaman card. I think it's just a little too clunky, too expensive, too weird to pull off to actually see much constructive play. It's a soft 2, probably a 1. It's a 1, realistically.
That's fair. Do you agree with that, John?
Yeah, I'll give it a 1. I don't see it seeing play.
What do you...
It should be noted that like Druid actually played Faceless Shambler for a bit, but the problem is this card is worse than Faceless Shambler in that deck, so it's not going to see play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think, Hayden?
It's another Ancestral Spirit for Control Shaman, but the problem is that you don't want number 3 and number 4 for Ancestral Spirit.
Yeah.
It's an interesting card, but it's a 5 mana 3/3. At the end of the day, it's not too great.
Yeah, and you would just run a Faceless Manipulator if you wanted another card to use. You wouldn't run this, I don't think. Because you want that down. You want that power down on the board. You don't want it to come as a death rattle.
Yeah. Also, it clogs your barns, which is bad. You want your barns to always get something good, and this is not a good card off of barns.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
What would you give it out of 5?
1.
Sounds good. Niraj, what do you think with Corpse Razor?
I'm pretty interested about this card in Arena because Ancestral Spirit is pretty decent already. If you have a bit of a heavier deck, this is pretty decent with it. But I don't know. I feel like in the meta we're going into, I feel like this is a little bit better, because if you put this on like a decent 4-drop and then you get that resummon, well, then your board's gonna still be stable and you can curve into stuff like Bone Mar, stuff like that. I like this card.
Yeah. What would you give it out of 5?
I think I'd give it probably a 3. Like, the problem is that the body itself is kind of weak, and if you play that, you can't play this alone, which is a problem.
I feel like it's a bit of a win more card in Arena. Like,
I
yeah,
don't know.
it gives you quite a lot, but you're already winning, I think, when you're playing. Or maybe, like, you're even to a head, I guess, when you're playing this. So
it's like Ancestral Spirit, kind of, but it's a little less flexible in a way.
Yeah. It does make your board sticky for turn 7 Bone Math. So that's something to consider. But I think, like, I mean, I would just go a little bit lower than you. I'd give it like 2.5.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, like, that's kind of what's wrong with the card. Yeah. All right. So
I think something to consider for Arena is that you're going to be drafting a lot of cards that have the conditional. You have to have a minion on the board, and maybe even a minion that can attack this turn to really get value out of it. And I don't know if this really competes for that slot. I think it's fine, but it's not. It has that going against it.
Yeah, so that's kind of why it's like 2.5, because it's like, it's literally average. There are better things that you're going to want to draft over it. If you can draft this if you haven't had a lot of those cards. If you've got really good cards just on the board, then yeah, you can draft this to kind of strengthen your board. But if you've already got a lot of things like Bone Mares, you're never going to pick something like this. You just want consistent stuff to get on the board a lot of the time. Yeah. Alright, let's move on to the next card. We've got Saronite Chain Gang, which is a 4-mana 2/3 taunt. Battlecry, summon a copy of this minion. So it's comparable to Doppel, and a bit like Spirit Wolves as well. What do you think, John, of this card?
I mean, I think like their whole idea of printing this is it's really good in like buff Paladin, and you buff with your hand, then you get 2 big guys. But the problem is that deck is like really inconsistent, and you have to hit like 3 buffs or something to make this card actually good.
But isn't Doppel also better? Doppel's also better in buff.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, even Doppel. Well, this has taunt, which is it's good for Sadro, but if you don't hit buffs, it's just awful, and buff decks in general just don't work.
Yeah.
So this card just isn't good. It's cool. Maybe if that deck gets more support in the future, it might work. But right now, no.
What do you think? What do you think about this card in Token Shaman with Evolve?
No, like Doppel's better. You don't want to play bad cards that are good with Evolve. That's just not a good idea. Even with we have the new hero, it's still not good enough.
That's fair. So your main reason for saying that is you don't want to have too many of these cards to use with Evolve, and you've already
Yeah, you
got
don't want
Doppel, so-
situational cards in this game are really bad. Just in general, you want proactive stuff, cards that are good all the time. So you want to minimize those in your deck. Yeah, this card is just too situational.
Okay,
So I guess I'll give it a 2 stars. It's going to see some play in bad decks.
that's fair. Fuel, do you have anything to add about this card?
I do. I love this card.
Oh,
Okay.
I don't think I'm not going to give it a 5. It's not a staple by any means, but this is. I love the design on this card. I think the point about hand buff paladin and other hand buff decks is fair. That's a pretty inconsistent strategy. This does increase the power level of that deck, but that doesn't make it good. What I like about this card is it's a lot like Doppel in that it has more or less fair stats, right? 4 mana for 2/2/3s. That's about right. With Taunt, it's not a spectacular card. It trades good against some boards and worse against other boards. It's a fine 4-drop. But it has the Flame Tongue synergy, it has Evolve synergy, it has buff synergy. I think is it going to end up making the cut in those decks or not? I'm not sure, but I'm much more optimistic than John that it has at least a fighting chance. One reason I think that is in Token Shaman, you're running basically no 4-drops. If I remember the last list that I played against correctly,
we have Jade Light, and that's it.
Yeah, you have Jade Lightning. This is an actual drop, as opposed to a conditional spell that, of course, is extremely powerful, but you're not going to replace that, of course. But to supplement the 4 slot, this is, I think, a strong card. It plays well with the Flame Tongue, like I said. It curves right into the hero, which is neat. I'm not sure the hero's going to see play, but if it does, then this curves into it.
Yeah.
I like it. I'm not 100% sold it's going to end up making the cut in any of the decks that I think it's good for, but I think it is good for those decks, and it has a fighting chance in several of them. I think this card's a pretty easy 3 for me.
I think that's fair. I mean, because you're
Four, but
probably
a 3.
you're probably getting 2 bodies as well on 4 mana anyway in that kind of deck,
Yeah.
and you're getting better bodies out of it with this card. So I can see this card being tried out, and then we'll see kind of what happens with it. So I think what you're saying is fair.
I think Jade Spirit might even be better than this card, which is my problem with it.
Yeah, that was kind of tried out near the beginning of Token Shaman as well. Yeah.
I don't know. That's a deck that wants to play 32 cards or 33, so it's really tough to
this is
play
better
cards
into
like
Evolve,
this.
though. So that's why I think,
yeah.
That's why I think this might be better than Jade Spirit.
Maybe.
In Token
But buff Jades. I don't know. It depends.
It does.
Yeah. But at the very least, if Jade Spirit's the 32nd card and this is very much competing for that same slot, I think that still makes it a quite good card.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'm saying if it's gonna. I don't know. I feel like I am very harsh with my rating system.
So what would you?
Maybe I'll give it a 2.5.
Okay. What would you give it, Fuel?
3.5.
I think I want to go with Fuels, but I'm also optimistic. I really want this to see play. So okay.
I'm not.
We'll hear from Haydum, see what he thinks.
Token Shaman and Hand Buff Paladin are both absolutely awful and wild. This card supports both of those archetypes and nothing else, so it's a 1-star card.
It's fair. What about in Arena, Niraj?
I'm pretty interested in this card. Hand buffs and Paladin are decent. You occasionally will draft Smuggler's Run or Grime Street Outfitter, and you can spread on board with this. Besides that, I think it's a decent card overall, but spreading out the stats is kind of iffy in my mind. I don't know. I think this is kind of just average.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty much of the same mind. I'm not sure if it spreading over two bodies is going to be good. I think that's a downside. So
Because like I'd rather just have like maybe a Twilight Drake or Yeti. I don't know.
yeah, no, I'm agreeing with you. Yes, I don't think I'd ever call this better than average. Like I think it's just 2.5 from me.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Let's move on to best card in the set. Happy Ghoul. It's a 3-mana 3/3, and it costs 0 if your hero power has healed you this turn. So pretty much used in Priest. If it is going to be used, what do you think about this card, Fuel?
Man, I'm having a hard time evaluating this card. It's pretty good in a very aggressive meta, right? If you're Priest, where you can heal your face and drop a quite strong tempo minion down on turn 2 and compete with an aggro board. That set of 3/3 is still kind of awkward stats. You'd rather have like a 2/4. There's an argument to be made for playing a package of like this and Earthen Ring Farseer for a bunch of stats on turn 3.
Oh no,
Like
but it's
in
only if
Warlock,
your hero.
say.
It's only if your hero power uses it, so it doesn't work with Earthen Ring Farseer.
No,
No,
That's
yeah,
not
it's,
true. If it's
no.
just your hero was healed this turn.
Oh, your hero.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I'm blind.
Yeah.
Works with
Okay.
Truce over as well, actually.
Oh.
Yeah. So there's like I think probably the second most likely place after Priest is Warlock, because Warlock can guarantee that they take damage. I mean, some warrior classes or some weapon classes as well, but right. So like Warlock can tap on turn 2 and turn 3 play this and Farseer, for example. I don't know. I'm not real sold on the card. It's anything that costs 0. Of course, you have to be wary of, or that can cost 0. But it's kind of a low impact card for the card slot. Just a card out of your hand. I think it's probably a 2 from me. But I could be told this is one of those cards that I feel like could easily be a 4, and I just would have no idea. Like this is a really weird, cool card.
Yeah. What do you think, John?
Yeah, this is a really weird card. Like I was saying with Truce over before in Paladin, the problem with that is your face has to be damaged. In an aggressive Zek, your face doesn't tend to be damaged because they have to trade all of their stuff into your minions, so you're at full health, and that actually makes it kind of tough to use. It could see play in Priest, like a 2-mana 3/3 kind of. Personally, I don't think it's good enough to see play. It might see very fringe play in some meme debts or whatever, but I don't think it's gonna be like it's gonna define any tier 1 debts or whatever. I'll give it 2 stars.
Does it buff Voodoo Doctor and Gadget Sense Socialite?
Problem is you don't want
No.
to play bad cards; those are bad.
Okay. Just wanted to get that out of the way because someone in the chat is talking about that. What do we think about this card in Wild, Haydam?
There's not a priest deck that wants this. Like the priest decks just want hard control and top end, and this is neither of those. I don't think this has a place in Mild, so I'm gonna rate it 1 star.
Okay. What about in Arena?
In Priest, you can maybe get this off as a 2-mana 3/3 technically because you healed. In other classes, it's still fine. I guess it's a 3-mana 3/3 if you need to fill your curve. So I guess that's one reason you're gonna pick it. Besides that, I don't see too much other application. Maybe like True Silver in Arena, but besides that, it's just a 3-mana 3/3. It's fine.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking towards Priest and Arena. The problem is you're just not going to be healing your face. You want to be healing your board. And if you're not playing something on turn 2 and you're healing your face, well, then you're in a bad position. I don't know if this card even helps you, because then they've got 2 minions up and you've just played this 3/3.
It's
You're still
flexible
going to be
in the
behind. Yeah.
It's flexible in the way that you can, if on turn 2 you can establish something, and if they go face, then you can heal and then play the 3/3. But then it's like the same as just playing the 3/3 itself. So
there's not a lot of heal effects in Arena right now. Like True Silver is the only one that you're expecting to find.
Or at least heal the face.
Yeah, exactly. And like Bartender doesn't work with this because that happens at the end of your turn. So like, I mean, you could play this in the absence of a 2 in Priest. Besides that, it's still a 3/3. You
Yeah,
have to
which
give it
is
that.
still fine.
But it's not going to be something I feel that's broken in Arena, because I don't see the effect actually going off a lot.
Yeah.
Except in like very few specific cases and Witchery Silver. Yeah. I might give it a 3.
I'll give it a 3 as well. I'm fine with 3 mana 3/3. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to Keening Banshee, which is a 4 mana 5/5. Whenever you play a card, remove the top 3 cards of your deck. So this is a better Fel Reaver, right? Or is it worse? It's hard to say, I think. What do you think, John?
No, this card isn't good enough. Like, I mean, the effect doesn't really matter that much, but a 4 mana 5/5 just isn't good enough to see playing constructed. It's just simply it doesn't have good enough stats.
It's fair. What do you think, Phil?
I concur. This card is one more attack than a Yeti for a downside, and most decks I probably wouldn't even play a 4 mana 5/5. There are some, but not many.
Right.
And certainly not with the downside. There are just way better options at 4. It's bad.
Yeah, and in constructed, you've built your deck to work together. You don't really want to be giving up those cards, especially not for something that's.
I mean, it's Fel Reaver was insane because it was really overstated. This card is in,
Yeah.
so
and you could ramp it up with Mech Warper.
Yeah.
This card is like pretty much like if I think when I actually think of vanilla stats, 4 mana for 5/5 is actually what I think of these days in constructed.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty much the vanilla test for me now. And so to have a downside, not that discarding cards is like a huge downside because you can pretend they're from the bottom of your deck since your deck is generated randomly every time you draw, but it's still a downside. It's not a good card, and even more than that, to your point of you built your deck to have synergy. It's not the cards you lose that you really care that much about. It's the fact that this is basically a 4 mana 5/5 blank slate, and that doesn't have any synergy, so I won't play it.
Yeah. What about in Wild Hatem? Do you agree?
Yeah, it's nothing interesting.
Yeah.
4 mana 5/5s aren't good. We can play Fel Reaver. We still don't play Fel Reaver. So
Yeah, pretty much. So all of you are giving it 1 star, is that right?
yes.
Yeah. In Arena, I like this card. Niraj, do you like this card?
I like it a good amount. A 4 mana 5/5 feels nice, obviously. You can control the effect, which is a lot better in comparison to something like Fel Reaver. You can control the effect, and even then, you're fine with playing a 5-drop on this, because milling 3 cards isn't like super significant in Arena. So I like this.
Yeah, and I like that it contests Scalebane as well. Like, I want things to go into turn 5 to make sure they can't get that card down, so...
That is very true.
Yeah, so I feel like I'm a bit hesitant to say this, but I kind of want to give it a 3.5. Yeah, I'm not going to give it a 4. Okay, 3.5. I'll give it a 3.5.
I really want to give it a 4.
Okay, let's give it a 4. We're going down in flames together, Niraj. We'll give it a 4 in Arena.
I like this. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you like stats in Arena, and like you say, you can control it. Like, one of the big issues with Fel Reaver in the past was, like, your opponent plays a lot of cheap stuff, and then suddenly, like, you're facing fatigue, and your Fel Reaver needs to hit face a couple of times to actually kill them.
Yeah,
but, like,
the thing is, if you just play a 5-drop into this, it's not the most terrible thing in the world. It's like, you mill 3, it depends on the deck on how significant that is, but most of the time it won't be like the worst thing that'll happen to you. So
yeah. Yes, I feel like it's got a lot of potential in Arena, but we'll see how that goes. So we're saying 4.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the next card. Bone Drake. It's a 6 mana 6/5 dragon, and its death rattle is add a random dragon to your hand. What do you think about this, John?
I like this card a lot. I mean, like dragon decks in general, they really don't have a turn 6 play, and this is a card to play in turn 6. Like the dragons you discover are actually pretty good. I mean, Fairy Dragon's kind of bad, Malagos isn't great, but most of the other ones are pretty good in your deck. You just play this on top end, and it gives your deck a little bit more value. I like it though. I think we'll give it 3.5 stars. I think it's good.
Okay. What do you think, Phil? Do you agree?
I don't love the design of this card. I'm not a huge fan of random things, especially when there's as big of a disparity between Alexstrasza and Ysera and Midnight Drake and Fairy Dragon. This, especially in Arena, I'm really nervous about this card because I do think this card has a lot of value built in. It's like, not terribly statted. It's got, then it offers a big thing to put into your hand. This is a ton of value in one card. I think it's totally reasonable that this will see play in some like N'Zoth decks trying to squeeze a little more value out. It'll see play in Dragon decks. Dragon decks do have the 6 mana 3/6 with the Shadow Word Pain built in, Bookworm. But that's not really a curve play. That's rather not really a proactive play, which this is. And it has the synergy with Dragon decks of it keeps dragons in your hand, right? You play this, and then it dies, and you put a dragon back in your hand, so you always have dragon activators. I think it's a strong card. I just think that the variance is sketching me out a little bit, and it's going to swing some games, and I'm not going to be that happy about it.
Yeah, that's pretty fair. Hayden, what do you think about this card?
So like I mentioned before, the N'Zoth decks that play Death Rattles, they just want taunts and things that act as walls, and this doesn't do any of that. I might be kind of wrong on this. The format's low enough to kind of want a card like this. It's a fine body. It trades fairly well, and the dragons are of course fairly good. But I don't know. All of the N'Zoth decks just kind of want taunts, and this isn't a taunt. So I'm not sure how I feel about this card.
That's fair.
I don't think it's good enough to put it in like a Reno deck, which Reno decks are really the only N'Zoth decks. So I mean, maybe it's just like a 2-star card, but I don't think it's too great.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give it like 2 stars.
So
one more thing I'd
Sure.
bring up about this card is that it's a slow card, right? 6 mana for 6/5. That's not aggressively statted. It's aggressively statted technically, but it's not. It's not an aggressive card. It's a slow card, and then because it's a death rattle, it slowly draws you another slow card because the dragons are slow. So this is a very slow card. You only play this when you want a lot of value. All right, sorry, I just forgot to say that earlier. Move on.
That's okay. So in Arena, I think this is probably if it's not in the top 3, then it's in the top 5 Arena cards from the Frozen Throne. Dragons are absolutely insane. So,
I'm scared. I am genuinely scared. I feel like my Arena experiences are going to be ruined by this card just by high rolling Ysera and Onyxia. I'm pretty sad by this.
and Deathwing.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, this card seems pretty. This is really good in Arena.
Yeah.
The stats are good enough to contest other 6-drops, and the value is just really, really good. Obviously the low rolls are low rolls, but there's a lot of potential to get high rolls in this card. It's really insane. I would give this a solid 4.5, maybe even 5.
Yeah, I mean, 2 of the top 5 legendary cards are dragons. One of the best epic cards is a dragon, Primordial Drake. So it's like this card can give you seriously good quality cards, and it's not even that bad. 6 mana for 6/5. Like as 6 mana, you don't really care so much about that. It still contests most 6-drops besides Border Fistoga.
Yeah, so, I'm just scared about the Bone Drake and a Bone Drake high rolls. That's the most concerning thing in my mind.
Bone Drake into Primordial Drake.
Yeah, this is so much value.
I feel like this is probably the best rare in the in the entire pool right now.
Yeah, absolutely. But we will get to that because we're going to rate all of them in a second.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd 4.5 to 5. I really want to say 5, but it's always hard to call something
It's
outstandingly
very
amazing.
hard to
Yeah.
give something. It's very hard to give a card like this a 5 because, like, if you look at other 5-star cards like Primordial Drake or Vile Spine Slayer, it's pretty hard to compare it to something like that. But
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you just mentioned that it was the best rare in the pool for Arena. I
in this set, that's
Yeah,
what I
in
meant.
this
Yeah,
set,
okay.
Not the overarching best rare, because there are still better cards. Like Perditions is an example, but like this is just, it's a really solid card in this set specifically.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll say 4.5 though, just to be safe, so that Reddit doesn't hunt us down. But yeah, this is a really good card. We're excited for it. Right, so that's the rares done. We'll go around everyone and we'll pick our most impactful card from rares. We'll start with you, John. What do you think?
I'm going to say Bone Trade. I see a lot of potential in that card. Also, I just wasn't really impressed with most of the other cards, so we'll go with Bone Trade.
That's fair. What do you think, Fuel?
Serenite Chain Gang. Although Bone Drake is probably the safer choice, but I think Serenite Chain Gang has maybe even some higher potential, possibly, and I like it better.
What do you think, Haydam?
Mindbreaker.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. What do you think, Niraj?
Going Bone Drake. I'm a big Dragon Priest player. Gonna try to slot this in Arena. This is just really awesome. I love this card.
Yeah. And yeah, especially in Dragon Priest, being able to find more operatives could be cool.
Considering I'm a pretty big Priest player, I'm gonna enjoy this card.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Bone Drake. This is gonna be absolutely nuts in Arena, so I'm looking forward to that. All right, now let's move on to epics. We're gonna start this one off with Nerubian Unraveler, which is a 6-mana 5/5. Spells cost 2 more, and we're gonna start with Haydam on this. So we're gonna hear the wild portion. What do you
Okay,
think,
yeah.
Haydam?
So I have the most unpopular opinion with this card in Wild.
That's why I picked you.
Yep. So I actually think this card is absolutely incredible in Wild. As the mid-range Paladin player, as one of the people that made the deck, I actually believe that this card is going to be great in that deck. And the reasoning is just, at any point of the game, this is a 6-drop. So let's say that you went like a standard curve into Quartermaster, you have like 4 3/3s. Your opponent, if they're on control, is going to be forced to answer that, or they're going to lose. Now, right now, all that we have to do to make sure that they can't do that is load them. A card like Nerubian Unraveler, while it's much less of a buff, or a nerf to the cards, it is still a nerf, and it basically turns off all of the AoE that they could possibly have to AoE your stuff. It turns off Flame Strikes, it turns off, if they're going first, Flame Strike, Blizzard, it gets turned off. Volcanic Potion doesn't do it. It turns off everything. So this card is
turns. Yeah.
For 2 turns. Yeah, for 2 turns they cannot AoE your stuff. I believe this card is actually extremely similar to a card like Dr. Boom, where you just play this, your opponent can't answer it, and they lose the game. This card is an incredible card in mid-range decks, I believe.
Right, and that's only because there's so much control in
Wild. Yes.
Wild, yeah. Okay. So what would you give this out of 5?
5.
Okay. Fuel, what do you think about this card? You there, Fuel?
Oh, yep. Sorry.
Nice.
Yeah, I agree. This card has more potential than a lot of people think, and less than a lot of Reddit thinks. Maybe for a while, Reddit was really high, and then they sort of balanced out. The big thing for me is that in Standard, there's a heck of a lot more counterplay on the board early game. There's not sort of one dominant one that expects to win the board early, like it sounds like there is in Wild. And so you're going to be, if you're fighting back and forth on board, and this is only protecting itself and maybe one other thing, not nearly as impactful. The other thing is that, so basically the counterplay in we tend to use in Standard is you just got to kill control decks faster, because you can't afford to spend cards like this to try and protect your board the hard way, I guess. So in Standard, not nearly as good. It's not dust, but I probably give this a 2.
The reasoning that it's so different is because in in Standard, you guys don't have Reno. In Wild, the decks have to get someone from like 30 to 10, and then from 10 to 30 to 0, which is just adding an extra 30 health point or HP.
Right. So your win condition as a beatdown deck is you have to hold the board for several turns in a row of hitting him in the face. I got you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Makes sense. John, what do you think?
I think it's probably going to be playable in a mid-range deck, but I don't think it's going to be like, stellar there. It's like an anti-neutral deck, some mid-range list. I'll give it 2.5 stars. It's okay. It's going to be really fun. So
interesting. Niraj, in Arena, what do we think about this?
I'm kind of interested in this card. The stats it's understated for a 6-drop, but the potential to have your board kind of resilient to AoE, it's interesting. But the thing is, I feel like into the meta we're going into, which is going to be a bit more reliant on having a board, they just kind of play like Bone Mar or something after you play this.
Yeah.
Or they just play a different 6-drop and you're sad.
This would have been insane in Ongura, because Ongura was all about having spells to remove your opponent's board. So it's the wrong kind of arena metaphor. I agree with you there.
I think this would have fit pretty well in Ongura because there were slower mage decks, slower shamans, slower priests as well. This would have fit really well in the meta.
I feel like in the meta we're going into, though, this is like a 2, maybe.
I'd give it a 2, probably. Yeah. If some sort of slow decks come to fruition, then this would probably be decent, but it's mostly going to be board-centric, just from what we've seen.
Yeah, it really depends what we see from Mage as well, because Mage hasn't really had a lot of minions. So Mage may still kind of play that control-y discover style. It depends how many of those cards are actually drafts, because we've not seen a lot from the Frozen Throne. So we'll see how good this card is, but it's probably not going to work out that well. So we'll move on to the next card now. We have Corpse Taker, 4 mana 3/3, Battlecry. Gain Taunt if your deck has a Taunt minion. Repeat for Divine Shield, Lifesteal, and Wind Fury. Fuel, what do you think about this card? Fuel.
Yep, sorry.
Nice.
Muted. This card is, I think, pretty meta dependent. It's pretty good against aggro if you can get the Taunt, Divine Shield, and Heal. Same reason Wicker Flame's so good. Curving that into this, if you have, say a Chillblade champion in your deck to still give this lifesteal, pretty much seal the game against most aggro decks, I would say. That said, in a more board-centric meta, I'm not sold that this card does enough. Wicker Flame's okay, but at 4 mana, being understated with the Taunt and Divine Shield is, it's, not necessarily making the most brilliant trades. So I think it's pretty meta dependent. It's probably pretty good in hand buff Paladin, but, we'll see if that's a deck. I think it's okay. It's probably pretty good in certain metas and pretty weak in others. I give it probably a hard 2 soft 3.
Yeah, I think in my mind, like all the decks that are running it, you're only really looking at getting Taunt and Divine Shield, and that's Paladin because we now have the 1/1 with Taunt and Divine Shield, and we have Wicker Flame as well, and we have Tyrion. So I feel like that's the only deck where that kind of gets off consistently, and those are the only 2 you're looking to get. What do you think, John?
I think it's decent in Paladin. It's going to be active almost all the time, unless you throw a Wicker Flame. Then it's even then it's still a Divine Shield 3/3 with Taunt. That's not awful, but I think it's going to be decent in Paladin. I'll give it 3 stars.
Sounds good. What do you think in Wild, Adam?
So I think this is a Paladin card. Also maybe something in Shaman with Halakir. I was talking to my friend Doc Rowdy a little bit, and he brought up some very interesting points on the card. Mainly in Shaman, how he mentioned that Alakir is a card that kind of comes in and out of Shaman decks. It's like almost good enough to be in there, but it's taken out mainly because there isn't really a shell. But if mid-range Paladin is a thing, it for sure works. Alakir giving it literally everything is incredibly strong. In Paladin, you have Wicker Flame and you have Tyrion. If you do draw a card, it turns off that effect, or it turns off the effects of that card, but it should be fine. It forces you to run Wicker Flame, which is whatever, but I mean, most decks are already running Wicker Flame, but mid-range Paladin got it and stuff like that. But it's a fine card. I wouldn't call it amazing, but I wouldn't call it bad. I'd rate it like a 3-star, 3.5 or whatever.
Sounds good. In Arena Mirage, what do we think of this card?
I'm interested by this, but I'm not thinking that it's going to be too great because the pool I feel is lacking divine shields that you can actually draft.
Right, and that's the big thing there, because
that's what you really want.
Yeah, I feel like that's the best effect that you're getting off of this.
Yeah. You draft a good amount of taunts. Wind Fury comes by sometimes, like Stormwatcher.
Yeah, that's the only one that I could think you would draft, and even then, you're only drafting it if the other two choices are bad, I feel.
Yeah, and Lifesteal, you're not really going to be drafting that too often. Maybe in Priest, but you're missing the best effect, so I don't think that's good.
Like, I see this as low, like, I expect to see a 3/3 taunt from this. Sometimes you might see a 3/3 Divine Shield taunt from this. In that case, it's okay. Like, I would consider that slightly above average. But most of the time, I feel like this is going to be below average.
Like, the most things that I'm probably going to be seeing is Taunt and Wind Fury. No, not Wind Fury. Maybe Taunt and
Lifesteal, do you think?
Lifesteal, yeah. Maybe those are the most common, but even the Lifesteal minions aren't that great anyways.
Yeah, because you don't care about the healing to face.
And they're all pretty understated just from the set, but...
Yeah. So yeah, we don't really like this card.
I'd give this maybe a 2 at best. This is just not, like, great.
Yeah, I think I would have given it a 2 in Ongora. I might give it 1.5 now because I really don't know how many Divine Shields we'll get. Actually, maybe I'm being unfair. Okay, I'll give it 2. Yeah. Because it's good with Divine Shields. So yeah, okay. That's if you get Divine Shields, this is good. Alright, let's move on to the next card. We have Meat Wagon. 4 mana 1/4, Mech. Death Rattle. Summon a minion from your deck with less attack than this minion. What do you think, John?
I mean, you can pull off like some really cool combos with this, like Cold Blood or with buff from hand mechanics, but it seems like so situational to do that stuff, and you have to make a really weird deck around that. So I think it's bad. I'll give it, I guess, 1.5 stars since it's gonna see fringe play in some of the meme decks, but not gonna be in any competitive decks.
Yeah. Fuel, what do you think about Meat Wagon?
Meme Wagon is one of my favorite cards.
There's the new name.
Yep. It's obviously it's not super competitive. It has to pull something pretty great to justify having a 1/4 stat line at 4 mana. That's the stat line you'd be not that happy about on a 2-drop. And those come out 2 turns earlier. So it's got to be pretty spectacular. The best I've been able to theory craft is with Validated Doomsayer, where this dies, so you play this on 4, they spend their resources, on board, whatever, their 4-drop to trade into it in order to make sure you don't buff it, and then Validated Doomsayer pops out, and then you get to attack with a 7/7 on your turn. That's pretty cool. Past that, though, it doesn't work actually with hand buff mechanics at all, because the cards that you're playing in that deck are often ones that either are creating the hand buffs or want to be recipients of the hand buffs. And if you're pulling them straight onto board, say you're pulling Serenite Chain Gang onto board, that's pretty darn bad. You're pulling a 2/3 taunt onto board.
Or even like a Stonehill Defender in a lot of decks.
Exactly. So So you're really wanting to play this in something that's playing, meteor cards that you're playing for the bodies, which isn't that popular of a strategy anymore in Hearthstone. Even with cards that are more consistent than this, it's a fun card. It's not going to be competitive though, but it has potential to like one day make some really cool combos, and does valid doing the same thing. I give it a 2. It's fun. It's cool. It'll see a tiny bit of range play.
Yeah. What do you think in Wild, Haydum?
I think this card's like really unique and cool. I think it's awful, but I think it's unique. If it costed like 1 less more mana, I think I'd actually like try out a Lore Walker Show Meat Wagon engine. Just because of all of the control, being able to seal their spells is pretty neat. But it's bad as it is, and we can't lower its mana cost, so I don't think it's too great. So I'll give it a 1 star.
Seems fair. And then in Arena, this is just trash.
See,
Right now.
see, what I imagine is a broken wagon filled with expired meat falling down a hill, and it's just that bad.
Yeah, it's just there's nothing. There's no combo I can think of in Arena that's going to
There's
justify.
there's
its
nothing.
stats.
There's just
Yeah.
nothing.
And the tag is irrelevant as well. Mechs haven't been relevant for like what 3 Arena metas? Oh no,
It has
actually
been
rather
relevant.
since they took out
Since the rotation, or
Yeah.
since they took out like
the wild cards.
they rotate like Clockwork Knight, stuff like that. So it's
Yeah.
just not relevant anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So I'd give this 1 star in Arena.
I'd give this 0 if I could, but
We'll make a special case for this card and the Hunter card in Arena. All right, so let's
Yeah,
look at Tomb Lurker. It's a 5 mana 5/3, and its battle cry is to add a random death rattle minion that died this game to your hand. And yeah, I'll let John talk about this first.
It's just, it has 2 poor of stats for the effect. 5 mana is a lot to have a 3 health minion, and it doesn't really do anything that great. I mean, you have to have a death rattle die before it, which isn't even easy to do, and you get it back. It's just not good.
What do you think, Fuel?
I think that it's just a little too clunky. It's got right. You got there was first of all, there's the risk of playing this because it's not a death rattle minion that died on your side of the board. So there's a risk of your opponent playing some small death rattle that you don't want, or some synergistic death rattle that you don't want, and you get that back instead. It's not as big of a risk as it was with like, anything can happen, but it's a risk. It's slow. It's not got terrible stats. 5 mana, 5/3 to essentially draw a card. That's pretty comparable to Azure Drake. It's it's okay for what it is. But the biggest thing for me is that it's really hard to curve out, right? Azure Drake you could just slam on 5. This, you need to have had a death rattle to have died already, otherwise it's awful. And most of the death rattles that you want to be playing in standard, especially ones that you're trying to like recycle for value, are bigger. And most likely you play this in an Azoth deck, and you want big death rattles out of that, and this has to come out after those, and those are usually expensive. So I think it's just too awkward.
Yeah.
It does curve after Arthas, though.
Okay, we'll get to that. That'll be fun if that works. All right, Haydon, let's hear about this card in Wild.
It's too bad of a body on its own. I don't know how to word it. It's just bad. Drawing a specific card is generally pretty good, but you just don't need it. It just doesn't feel needed. I don't know. I honestly don't know how to say why I don't like the card, but I just don't think it's good. Gonna rate it 1 star.
It's fair. In Arena, I feel like there have been a few 5/3 discover or cards that give you cards in your hand. A lot of them have been discovers, like Lotus Agents and the Ethereal card from Mage.
Conjurer.
Conjurer, yeah. But like, they didn't need something to happen before them for those cards to be okay. Like you need to
Yeah,
kill
you-
off a Death Rattle with this
you-
guy.
First, you need to actually draft death rattles. Then you need to kill them. Then you need to resurrect them, or like get them back.
Get them back in
this.
your hand. Yeah, and then there has to be a good Death Rattle as well. You don't want to
It's
get like an
just-
infested Tauren.
Yeah, it's like such a slow process. It's just not worth it to draft this, really.
Yeah, so I feel like I might give it a 1.5 because in a deck with a lot of Death Rattles, good Death Rattles, this can be okay.
Which don't really exist. They're
Yeah.
like few and far between. So
Yeah, exactly.
I think I want to give this a 1 star, honestly.
That's reasonable. Yeah, it's just it's a lot worse than it looks. It's actually quite funny because it's I don't know like how much often I get that because usually I'm quite optimistic about cards, but this one just looks bad every way that I can see it. Yeah. All right, so let's move on to the next card, and Blizzard hath smote Jade Druid with this next card, or
I
has
mean, they
it?
didn't smote it that hard, but
What do you think, John?
I don't think so. I mean, what deck do you even play this in versus Jade Druid? Like, am I really gonna put this in a control deck and see, 40% Jade Druid on ladder? That's not really reasonable. I mean, it is okay versus other stuff, like you need Earthen Scales or Inner Fire, but it's just too inconsistent to actually target that type of stuff.
Yeah,
I don't think it's good.
I was like trying to go through all the 1-mana spells. Like you hit Hallucination or like the Petals from
Yeah,
Kangaroo,
but like,
but even then it's at 6 mana, and they're probably going to use them like either on that turn or before.
Yeah.
So like yeah.
it's interesting that a lot of people said this is a Jade Druid counter, even though Jade Druid can just win by playing a bunch of mid-range cards on curve and just win through that.
Right, and you've still got to deal with like 10 tens of Jades. Like it's not as if this kills all of their Jades. You've still got to deal with that 10-10.
it's even 11.
Or 11,
It's a
yeah,
lot.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it prevents
The
that
problem
one
with this
specific
card-
situation that you get
the problem
right
with-
at the end. Yeah.
So the problem with this card is that they thought that the problem with Jade Druid was that it had the ability to infinite you, and that's not the problem at all. If they're at the point of infiniting
I feel
you,
like that
that's-
is the problem.
You already lost. It's really not. The
Well-
thing is that Jades are just good on curve, and they're all just
Right.
big
Oh wait,
minions.
right. So the deck is already strong, but I think the issue that most people had with Jade Druid is that because it spiraled out of control at a certain point, you should have decks that have that cap. Like, because I played a lot of Control Warrior like last when Jade Druid was played a lot in Mean Streets. It's like you want to plan out your removal to different kinds of Jade. So like versus Jade Shaman, you could plan out all of your removal versus different Jade cards. So I knew like, oh, I'm going to save this card for like something that's above like 7/7, if you get kind of what I mean. With Jade Druid, you couldn't do that because it went on infinitely. So at least this like caps that, so you can play a bit more strategically. But I agree, I don't think it's good enough to run in a deck by itself. And you don't see enough Jade Druid anyway to justify it. It's just come way too late. What do you think, Fuel?
I'm not real big on this card. Yeah, the problem with most control decks is Jade Druid doesn't kill you with infinite Jade Idols. They kill you with an 11/11. You play this on turn 6, and the turn 6 Jade, which is a 6/6 ish, just eats it for free and lives with 2 health, and then they summon a 7/7 the next turn. And I'm also just not real big on cards that interact with the deck anyway. I think that those effects are highly overrated. Because they still have to draw those, or have to have had drawn those cards for it to make any impact at all, which
Right.
in many games they just won't have anyway, unless you're really working your way towards fatigue. I think this card's pretty overrated. The one actually deck I do see this countering is Inner Fire Priest, because it takes away their way of actually killing you.
Yeah, but unless
So if that deck becomes cancerous,
yeah.
Otherwise,
it's
I don't
still
know.
too slow against that deck, though.
Well, I mean, how often? I guess they
Depends.
can still make like a 20/20 sometimes,
The
but
problem is you have a
often-
432. You have to answer that.
yeah, but you can answer that. Like eventually, it doesn't kill you that fast, and you can kill it eventually. I don't know. It would help that matchup a lot. That's the only matchup I see it really making a big difference
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not a big fan of this card. I mean, it's great. I like this card a lot. It's a good way to like start snipping away little by little at certain decks of strength. It's good design philosophy. I just don't think this card is going to do the trick.
I think the key thing with this card, just to kind of sum up, is that one, there's not going to be enough Jade Druid to justify it, and two, even if it does take away that final thing that Jade Druid does, you're still not guaranteed to win that game. Jade Druid still has a chance of winning.
Exactly.
Because of the Jades. So it's not good enough, is what we're saying. But yeah, okay. In Arena, this doesn't do anything, does it, Niraj?
Move on. This is this understated 6-drop. That's all you need to really
actually,
know.
Yeah, so what would we give this actually in Standard and Wild? Because we didn't actually do that. Out of 5.
I'll give it 1.5. Maybe it sees some play, but very little.
What do you think, Fuel?
Yeah, it's not even good enough with treachery, and it's way too inconsistent to evolve. I think it's bad.
Okay, yeah. Hayden, what do you think?
In Wild, Jade Druid actually just dies to control decks before it kills you. For some reason.
I mean,
makes no sense.
Kazakus is a pretty good reason.
Yeah.
And all the other crazy stuff you have.
So yeah, Jade Druid's actually just really bad. Or not really bad, it's just not great in Wild. So the card really doesn't matter. What I will mention though is that to all of those like rank 25 players on the Blizzard forums complaining about Hunter Quest being overpowered, here's your counter. So I mean, congrats.
Wait, how does this counter Quest Hunter? I don't understand.
You play it and then you pop their entire deck. Yeah, their entire deck.
These are one-cost spells.
Yeah, they get 15.
These are one-cost
spells. Oh, is it spells? Okay, never mind. This card's just bad. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was just one-cost cards. Okay.
There's spells, not cards.
Right. Okay. Yeah, this is just bad.
Yeah, this card's even more one-star then.
Nothing redeeming. Yeah. Okay.
If there were one-cost cards, this would be a little stupider, but...
All right, let's move on, guys. So now let's look at Rattling Rascal, which is a 4-mana 2/3. It summons a 5/5 skeleton, and its death rattle is that it summons one for your opponent. So it gives you tempo initiative, but then when it dies, it gives that back to your opponent. So what do you think about this card, Fuel?
Yeah, actually, I thought that we'd moved on. That's why I said what I said about the last time you asked me about Skulking Geist. I think this is pretty terrible. The two spots that I've heard it argued you could play this are Evolve Shaman and Treachery Warlock. And neither of those is sufficient reason to play something that nets you about a 2/2 and a little bit of tempo. It's just too inconsistent to try and evolve it and get rid of the weakness, and it's because if you don't evolve it, then it's bad. And Treachery, you try to pass it to your opponent, but really that only nets you about 3/3 in stats because you give them a 2/2 for them giving you a 5/5, and you're playing and it costs you 3 mana and Treachery out of your hand. I don't see this card seeing play. I think it's quite bad.
What do you think, John?
Yeah, this card's just awful. Doesn't do much.
Would you guys give it a 1-star?
I'll give 1. Yeah.
What's that sound? Huh. Anyway.
It's gone now. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, it's gone now. Hey, Dom, what do you think about this card?
Gimmicky cards are already like bad in standard, and if something's bad in standard, it's generally even more bad in Wild.
Yeah.
Like you don't want gimmicks in Wild, you want consistently overpowered cards, and this is not a consistently overpowered card. So you like, this isn't a Stegadon to buff your Silverhand recruits. This isn't, I could go on. Like it's not a good card.
Okay. Would you also give it 1 star?
Yeah.
Sounds good. In Arena, I liked this card when I first saw it. Now I'm feeling I really don't like it.
No, I don't like this at all. I don't like this. So ideally what happens is you play this, you summon your 5/5, but then their 3-drop kills this, and then they play their 4-drop, so then you're just pretty behind. It's just not that good.
Chaotic says it plays around MCT.
Yep, that's
If
so. If my opponent has 29 mind control techs, I'll play this card. But
it does also
besides that,
also play into Potion of Polymorph and potentially Mirror Entity. But then it's not really, you wouldn't ever pick it for that kind of fringe situation. And
yeah,
it's just
no.
not good enough on board by itself. So it's like what, 1 actually, I'd give it, yeah.
I'd just give it a 1.
Yeah.
Just move on.
Alright, let's move on to the next card. We have, let me just move this arrow. Drakari Enchanter, which is a 3-mana 1/5. Your end of turn effects trigger twice. Now, I'm actually going to go straight to Haydam on this again because I know Haydam thinks this card is interesting. So let's hear about it from Wild.
So this is a very hard card to evaluate. One, because I have a small brain and I can't think that hard, and two, it's an interesting effect. The obvious inclusion is with Thorazan, right? And what I'm thinking of is this would probably enable some crazy, not a lot of card combos. Like, again, I can't really think of any, but I think this card in the future would be a very powerful card, and I think it's something to look out for. As of right now, double Thorazan tick is fine. It allows for a lot of unique, gimmicky combos, which is cool. I always like that. So I don't think it's great, but I mean, it's a card that in the future might be great. As end of turn triggers or end of turn cards are being printed and stuff like that, the card will just get better with time. So I think it's like a 3-star card as of right now with Thorazan, but that's about it.
Okay. Fuel and John, do we have any end of turn effects in Standard that are notable?
We do.
We do?
We have a couple. You could say Ysera, but she's not really that notable at this point. The big ones that we've still got, Grimestreet Enforcer's not really that notable either. The biggest one I'm looking at right now is the Lich King. We haven't gotten to it in the review yet, but I'm sure everyone's heard from it at this point.
Yeah.
That's a big end of turn effect. That's the best one I can think of. John, you got anything better?
That's all I can think of, and even that, it's an 11-mana combo.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's way too clunky.
Justify ever running this then?
No.
Okay. So, what would you guys give this card out of 5 right now?
1.
Yeah, 1 for playability, 2 for potential
Yeah, it has
in the
some
upcoming
potential,
couple expansions.
1 right now.
Yeah, that's fine.
You need a pretty powerful and pretty cheap effect, though. I'm not even sold on. I mean, obviously, I don't play nearly as much Wild as our experts, but I'm not even sold in Wild. Like, that's a pretty clunky combo. It makes some cool discounts, but it's not consistent, right? The way getting a single Emperor discount on, say, a Charger and Power Overwhelming and Faceless or whatever. Like, it's clunkier than that. So I'm not sold. It's got more potential there. Not much in Standard, I'd say.
Yeah, that's fair. And then in Arena, this card is just
atrocious.
Yeah.
You
want to play
3 mana
something that
1/5 is just,
you want to
it just
contest
doesn't
the board.
trade. It just doesn't trade. It just doesn't do anything. Inconsistent with other effects. Just move on.
Yeah.
It's a 1-star card. That's all you need to really know.
Yeah, that's fair. Let's look at Furnace Face Colossus. That is a great name. Battle Cry.
Prince Fire, not Face.
Furnace Fire, yes.
Fire, yeah.
Damn it. Furnace Fire Colossus. Battle Cry. Discard all weapons.
Although
from your
I'm
hand.
calling him Furnace Face from now on.
Can we just call him that?
That's his
I was like, oh, that's
Yeah.
a cool name. It's because I looked at his face, and his face is on fire. So I was like, oh, Furnace Face. He looks like
Let's
one.
go. Furnace Face. A man.
All right, Furnace Fire Colossus. Battle Cry. Discard all weapons from your hand and gain their stats. It's a 6-mana 6/6. What do you think about this card, John?
Yeah, you kind of want weapons. You don't really want to like discard them. I mean, sure, it can if you have 2 Gore Howls in hand, it could be a 28 for 6 mana, but it's so inconsistent. And yeah, you want to keep your weapons. It's not good.
What do you think, Fuel?
Yeah, I agree. Those same 2 Gore Howls over the next 2 turns could just be used one after the other to hit him in the face, and you still get the same damage in. And In fact, you're more likely to get the damage in because the opponent can remove a 28 vanilla pretty darn easily on average. Yeah, you don't like discarding stuff. I'm not sure I would play this card. Let's say you eat a Fiery War Axe, right? That's probably the most consistent thing you'll be eating as you play this card. 6 mana, 9/8. I probably wouldn't play that card. Maybe I'd consider it. Maybe not though. Like, is this ever better than Hydra? Even if it wasn't discarding cards? But it is discarding cards, so I'm never playing it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. What about in Wild? Hayden?
It's 6 mana, 6/6 with the disadvantage.
Pretty bad?
Yep.
Okay. In Arena, I think it's just a 6/6 most of the time. I think if you're in a weapon class, you might actually either think twice about drafting it or like hope to get your weapons out because you really don't want this eating your weapons.
I would just not want to draft this if I was in a weapon class, to be honest. Unless the picks were just that bad that I was forced to draft it. Like,
yeah. I mean, it's not
this
terrible. Like, the thing is, weapons are so good, but like getting the extra stats in Arena, like those stats are relevant, but I still feel like you'd probably prefer the weapon.
But the problem is, weapons are just so insane in Arena. They're insanely good. Like, discarding them is just that's just not good, really.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd give this probably, I'll give it a generous like 2 or 2.5 because in other classes, 6 mana,
it's still
6/6 is like,
yeah.
it's
I feel like,
acceptable.
yeah, you can get this off in a lot of weapon classes if you use your weapons. But there are those like situations where this becomes really sad, and you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, okay, yeah, 2 seems fair. I'll give it 2 as well.
It's a slightly worse hog leader, but like,
Oh, it is. Yeah, it is worse than Hog Leader. That's fair. Yeah. Okay, 2 seems fair. We can move on to the next card. Now we have Death Axe Punisher, 4 mana 3/3. Give a random lifesteal minion in your hand +2/+2. Do we have a lot of good lifesteal minions?
No.
No.
We have Winter Flame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this comes out after Wicker Flame, so
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, and there are better ways. If you really want to buff Wicker Flame, there are much stronger and more consistent ways of doing so.
So what do you guys think about this card? Fuel, do you have anything else
1
to say about it?
star.
It's a 1.
Okay. Haydum, does this card see any kind of play in Wild? Okay, I think we'll move on from Haydum because he's not here, but I'm sure he would say 1 as well. If it's not seeing play in Standard, it's probably...
Oh, my mic was muted. Yeah, it's the 4 mana 3/3. It's not great.
Yeah, okay.
Man, who would try to talk with their mic muted?
what a nerd.
Niraj, what do we think about this card in Arena?
Still not many good lifesteal minions, so this is just not really good. You need a lot of lifesteal minions to justify drafting this somehow, but like, this is just...
Yeah, I'm of the same mind. I don't think this is very good. I might call it like... I'll give it 1.5, and the 0.5 is just for those situations where you do have lifesteal cards. Like, maybe the 3/3 Priest one you might sometimes draft, but then the problem is...
At first I read this was a give a random minion lifesteal and +2/+2, but then I read over the text
that
again.
would be
like,
pretty good.
Oh, that would be interesting.
Yeah.
That'd be decent in Arena. I'd like that. But then I read the text again. This is just so.
Yeah, there's just so few situations you use this.
Yeah.
Like, I really want to give it 1, but I feel like I should give it 1.5. Just if somebody does manage to draft a deck with a lot of lifesteals, that one guy is gonna feel pretty happy to get this.
You know what? He holds a cool axe, so we'll give him 0.5 for that.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, really bad in Arena. Probably don't want to draft it very often, or if at all. So that's the epics done. I'm going to ask each of you to pick your most impactful epic, and we'll start with Haydum this time. What is the most impactful epic for Wild?
Nerubian Unraveler for sure.
Nice. Fuel.
Other than that, I guess Janitor. I don't know.
Yeah, it's fair.
Man, the rares were great. The epics competition's a little less stiff. I'm gonna go with Corpse Taker. because I think that's the most likely in standard to see play. Even then, it won't be that amazing.
It's fair. John, what do you think?
I'll go with Nerubian Unraveler. I think it can see some play in mid-range decks. But again, I don't think it will be great, and that's only if there's a control meta. So,
Yeah.
yeah, but these cards aren't.
Yeah. Niraj, what do you think?
All of these very unimpressive to me in Arena. I guess probably either the Unraveler or maybe even Furnace Face, just because these are all pretty unimpressive to the point where I might actually have to pick Furnace Face.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking the same thing. I was looking over these like, I'm not looking forward to picking one of these as the best. I'll let Niraj go first. But yeah, these are very underwhelming cards. I feel like probably Corpse Taker in standard kind of makes sense, or Nerubian Unraveler, and then 6/6 is okay. But none of these cards are very good in Arena, like at all.
Corpse Taker's still pretty good in standard though, at least. So I hold hope for that. At least.
Yeah. Hopefully. We might be wrong. We'll see what crazy combos people can pull off with the Corpse Taker. But the other ones, I think, and the Unraveler, like seeing what that does to the meta. But
yeah,
the others have very limited use. Okay.
Yeah.
So now we move on to the arguably most exciting part of the review once we get past the first 3 legendaries. But we're going to have to go through them first. So, John, tell us about Prince Kaliseth.
It's bad. Like it's not even 2-mana spells or 2-mana minions. It's 2-mana cards. 2-mana cards are like really good in Hearthstone. Yeah, you need to play those. People were saying it could like work in Zoo or something, but you want to play 2-mana cards in Zoo. If you don't have this, you tap on turn 2 or you do double 1. It's too inconsistent, and it really, really hurts your deck. It's just bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuel, what do you think about this card? Same as John?
Not quite. I think that this card is it's okay. Yeah, I mean, I agree with John that 2 cost cards are really important, and 95% of decks have several that they would never ever be willing to give up.
Yeah.
But I disagree about Zoo. I think that I'm not saying this is good or like is going to fix Zoo, but right now Zoo has almost no 2-drops they're happy about running. They've got Direwolf Alphas, which are okay, and Ravasaur Runts, which are not even really okay. And past that, in standard, Zoo is not running any 2-drops. So what you can do is 1-drops, which are much stronger, that at least the Warlock has access to. You play just more of those in Kaliseth, and it sort of like creates this sketchy version of Zoo that's a little bit more competitive. I don't really like the design on this card either, though, because it's sort of like Reno Jackson-y, right? Where it's so swingy whether or not you play it on 2. So it's I don't like it. It's not good, but it's not as bad as people think. But it's not good.
I feel like this is why you're on the stream, Fuel, because if anyone's going to find a use for this card, I trust in you. You predicted
Good
Miracle
luck.
Priest 5 seconds after you saw Lyra, and you also predicted that Vine Cleaver would see play, which I didn't expect, so I
To be fair,
still
Vine
don't...
Cleaver didn't take much play.
Yeah, I still don't believe you here, but I'm ready to be proven wrong.
I'd be surprised if this actually makes Zoo a workable deck, but I would not be surprised if you do see Zoo, Kaliseth's in it.
Okay, that's reasonable. Hayden, what do you think about this card?
Okay, so this is probably the wrong statistic, but if I remember correctly, if you are going second and you do a full mulligan, up until turn 2, you have a 25.6% chance to draw Prince Kaliseth before your turn 2 or on your turn 2. That's really bad because you're sacrificing every good card in your deck, or most good cards in your deck.
Most good.
You're
And almost every 2-drops, yeah.
Very good 2-drops to have a missed color effect on 2 on a 25.6% chance to do it. It's like the most high roll central card in the entire world, and it's just bad at doing. So I don't think it's very good.
I mean, it does. I see what Fuel was saying as well. Like it rewards an aggressive deck, so I can see why he's saying that. I guess in Wild, those aggressive decks need their 2-drops a lot more than in
Yeah.
Standard. Yeah.
Just the card chips cannon. That's enough.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Well, and then Wild has cards like Nerubian Egg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And chips
Yeah.
cannon.
Yeah.
You're not going to play Kellis. Yeah, you're not going to play Well, I mean, yeah, Ships Cannon in Pirates, Nerubian Egg in Zoo type, eat your own cards, whatever. It's,
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's. I'd be surprised if this ever sees play in Wild because there are just such good 2-cost cards there.
Yep.
Yeah. And then in Arena, you want to draft 2-drops. You don't want to miss turn 2. So, I mean, it's a 2/2, which is a
Yeah.
bad 2-drop in Arena. Niraj, what do you want to say about this? Okay, Niraj isn't here. But yeah,
Right.
it's-
I forgot. I was muted again. I
That's
don't hate
okay.
him. Dude.
What a nerd.
Shut up. Okay. So the only way I see this being picked, and the only situation I'd pick it in, is if I was picking Warrior, and then I just wanted to pick every single bad card in Arena. So I'd pick this with it. But besides that, no, this is
Oh, wow.
terrible.
Yeah.
This is probably -5 stars in my book. So yeah.
I mean, it is still a 2/2, so it's a bad 2-drop, but it's still probably a
Yeah.
1 star. And also, if you consider the fact, like, what legendaries would you have to be offered to pick this? So Nat Pagle is
exactly,
one.
Lore Walker Cho and Nat Pagle.
Yeah.
Actually, no, I would pick Nat Pagle over this. Millhouse Mana Storm, probably.
I would pick Millhouse Mana Storm over this.
I would
Yeah,
pick
in
Nat
Arena.
Pagle over this as well.
Yeah.
I don't even know what.
Yeah. So I feel like this is probably one of the worst cards in Arena.
Pretty much.
Definitely one of the worst legendaries. Sorry.
I mean, it's a 2-mana 2/2. It's not one of the
yeah.
worst cards in Arena.
Yeah, not in
There's
Arena, yeah. But in terms of legendaries, definitely one of the
It's
worst.
like the
legendaries
worst.
in Arena.
It's like one of the worst.
Yeah. So I would give it 1 star in Arena.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Moving on to the next card, we have Prince Tulduran. He's a 3-mana 3/3. Battle Cry. If your deck has no 3-cost cards, whatever that was, transform into a 3/3 copy of a minion. What do you think, Fuel?
Yeah, I've got nothing to say about Prince 3. Kelliseth had some interesting mechanics, possible application, well, maybe a possible application. Taldaram, in my opinion, has none. There's one thing, in Druid, you play almost no 3-cost cards.
Well, you play Feral
So-
Rage.
Yeah, but that's
And
not...
Jade Blossom, really.
Yeah, but neither of those is like super core, right?
Yeah.
So Druid's like the only class that I could see like, yeah, we need a powerful effect on 3, except that this isn't really a powerful effect. So maybe some sort of weird synergy will come up in an expansion or two, but I'm not gonna go out on any limbs for this guy. This guy's too bad.
Yeah. Hayden, what about in Wild? Does he ever fit into like an Astral deck in Wild?
No.
No.
The problem with this deck, or the problem with this card is, like, in the decks that you'd want it, which are like Malagos, something like that, some sort of weird combo deck, you, 1, don't need it, and 2, it's getting rid of the cards that you need in order to make the combo work.
Yeah.
Like Malagos
also-
Shaman, maybe Malagos Shaman would want this, but then you can't run Lava Bursts. And
You also can't run Healing Wave.
It also has to be
Yeah.
on the board as well, doesn't it? Because you have to.
What do you
copy
mean?
do you have to copy the minion on the board with this?
yeah, no, like it's just not a good card.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
by the time you've got to that point where Malagos is on the board, you've either won or
yeah.
copying another
You-
Malagos isn't going to help. Yeah.
You have what's the name of the card? Ancestral, whatever, the one that just puts a minion in from your hand onto the play.
Yeah.
You'd just rather play this over something like this. You just
Yeah,
don't
exactly.
care.
Right.
So this is
Yeah.
just a bad card.
It's just
Yeah. It's really powerful if it copies a minion with a really powerful death throw. Like, say you put Ancestral Spirit on an Earth Elemental, right? Then you copy a 3/3 Earth Elemental with Taunt, and then when it dies, it summons a 7/8. That's really powerful, except that you can't play your threes, so it's never
Yeah,
gonna
the
happen.
healing wave is extremely important in
Yeah,
control
no,
shots.
there's
Yeah.
and yeah.
Like some of the only cards I could ever consider this card being good enough to put on. You could put it on something like a Lich King or an Ysera, but it's not worth building your deck around that kind of effect because
Yeah.
the cards you get from that are not necessarily going to win you the game. And you still need to
Yeah,
get
I'd
to
rather-
that combo.
I would rather play Drakari Enchanter because then I don't have to give my other 3-cost cards.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And that's
exactly.
never happening either.
Also, 11 mana combos. Not good.
Yeah, exactly. So
This
yeah,
is the set of 11 mana combos, I swear.
yeah. If only we had
whenever
Thurison. That'd be so
whenever they were
nice.
advertising this card, the card that they mentioned was Malygos, and then everyone was like, "Well, how am I supposed to combo this with Malygos if that costs 12 mana?"
Yeah.
Makes no sense.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I think we should move on from this card. It's junk.
Yeah.
Well, we'll quickly say in Arena. I mean, a 3/3 in Arena is better than a 2/2, so it's at least better than Prince Kaliseth, but not much better.
Yeah, you just pick this if the other options are bad. You need a 3-drop, maybe.
Yeah,
The effect is almost never going off because you want 3-drops in arena as well. Like
actually, that
2
was
and
unfair
3s
of me.
are very.
It is much better than Kaliseth, just because it's a 3/3, and 3/3s are
Yeah.
better than 2/2s. But
2 3s and 4s are very important. So you
Yeah.
obviously know what my reasoning is going to be for the 4 as well. So
yeah, it's just gonna be for a 3/3, so it's like
Yeah.
average. It's like a 2.5. But
yeah, I'd give
you
it
would,
5.
yeah, but like, there's even better like legendary 3-drops that you'd want. I don't know. You'd feel sad to get this as your legendary. There are much
Like
better things.
I'd have Beardo over this like any day.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. Yeah. Okay, we'll move on to the next card then. We have Prince Valinor. I don't play World of Warcraft, so if I say these wrong, just correct me. Is that Valinor?
That's right. No, that's right. It's Valor.
Good, good. It's a 4-mana 4/4. Battle Cry. If your deck has no 4-cost cards, gain Lifesteal and Taunt. Is that really useful? What do you think, Fuel?
It's almost like they printed an epic that is just better than this in this set.
Yeah, it's yeah. Okay, Fuel, what do you think about this?
I think this Prince is playable
In what?
in Rogue. Possibly in Hunter if Hunter wants to play a more controlling stance, but especially in Rogue. Because in Rogue, you currently have Sherazin, and that is your only 4-cost card.
We
And
have
Rogue
the
is
new 4
extremely.
legendary.
What's that?
We have the new legendary.
You mean Arthas?
No. What's his face?
Oh,
Lillian
Lillian
Voss.
Voss. Lillian Voss, yeah.
But that's
okay.
unplayable, so
Yeah, I would play Valinor over Lillian Voss any day
yeah, same.
in Rogue. Yeah, I think
fair.
this card has some very reasonable applications. Taunt is important. 4-mana 4/4 isn't good enough with Taunt by itself, but it's like close enough that if it has a strong other effect, then that's pretty good. And healing for at least 4 in 80% of scenarios, I'd say that's a pretty darn good effect. I'm not saying this card's amazing, but I think it's actually realistically of all the princes, it's the playable one.
You know, I've never considered it, but these are the two things that Rogue has never really had. You don't have any taunts in Rogue, and you don't really have any healing in Rogue. But we'll go to the Rogue expert. So, John, what do you think?
Oh, I'm not a Rogue expert, but I think Tar Creeper is a better card in Rogue if you really want to Tet verse that stuff. I don't know. It just doesn't really feel that like great. I mean, yeah, 4 cards aren't really that important in Rogue, but I don't think this is necessary to play. Most of the time, you're just either really behind on board and healing doesn't matter anyway, or like you're ahead enough on board, great, you win. Feels like it's very fringe. Maybe it will see play and I'm wrong, but I don't see it.
So I feel like you and Fuel are going to have kind of opposing ratings for this card, which is interesting.
I don't think it's awful.
Yeah. My guess is John's going to put it at 2, and I'm going to put it at 3. And I wouldn't exactly
Yeah,
call that
I'll
opposing.
give it 2 stars.
Oh, all right.
Oh, okay.
Hey.
3. Okay,
Nice.
so it's above average.
No, two.
All right.
Two.
Okay, 2. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. And what would you
I'm
give
giving
it,
it
Phil?
3.
You're giving it 3. Okay. Yeah. Pretty cool. What do you think in Wild, Adam?
Your 4 drops are way too important.
Yeah.
Even in Rogue, you have Tomb Pillagers,
And you
which
never
you don't
gonna
have
drop
in Standard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like in the other classes, you'd rather just run like Corpse Taker or just another taunt like Sludge Belcher and just be happy with it. So
Yeah.
I don't think this card's good.
That's fair. In Arena, it's still a 4/4 for 4. So I mean, it's a vanilla started minion in Arena. So what do you think, Mirage?
Yeah, it's again, it's kind of like the Prince, and it's average. Um, maybe Rogue can get away with not having any other 4 drops, although that's
No, I think
that's
you
really
can,
just
yeah.
not like they do lack 4s still like
Yeah.
within the class. So if you don't get another 4 drop, then maybe you could draft this and it could be good. But like you really want to draft 4s. That's another really important mana slot that you just want. You can't really get away with not having other 4s.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, yeah, this is like a 2.5 in Arena because it's
Yeah.
just literally average. It's a 4/4. So yeah, we'll move on to the interesting card. Wow, they printed it. What do we think of the Lich King? Fuel. Actually,
Oh baby.
I'll pull up the cards that it gives you on stream.
Yeah, you should be able to see it and the cards, depending how big you have it.
I'll actually make it bigger
Um,
just so everyone can see.
Yeah.
That might be a bit too small, but yeah.
Oh no, because Arf is going to pop down. Well, anyway, I think the Lich King is a strong card. I don't think he's God on a stick like a lot of people have been claiming he is. I don't think you just say, "Oh, look, am I playing a deck that's planning on going to turn 8 sometimes? Oh, I should slam him." Slam him in there. I don't think that's the case, but I do think that in most mid-range decks and a lot of control decks, he's gonna either see play or very much be competing for the spot. The Death Knight cards are really powerful. They're quite mid-rangey, a lot of them. Some of them are also work for control, and some of them are just universally applicable. But some of them control is not that excited about. Like say the 6-mana Army of the Dead, which removes the top 5 cards from your deck and summons any minions. If you're playing, a control mage or control priest, you're not that excited about Army of the Dead. You're just burning 3 or 4 cards to get a battle cry minion out that doesn't get the battle cry. Like, not great. Anti-magic shell, the 4-cost, give your minions +2/+2 and can't be targeted by spells or hero powers. Only good if you have a couple minions out. They're powerful cards, and some of them are absolutely insane. Death Coil, Death and Decay, in some circumstances Frostmourne, sometimes Doom Pact, Obliterate. They're very powerful cards. And they're on a decent body as well, right? The Lich King is an
And it's
8-mana
got taunt.
8/8 with taunt.
Yeah.
Exactly. Ysera you could ignore and wasn't that threatening of an attack stat. This you can't ignore. And I think the Death Knight cards are better on average than Ysera cards. There's nothing quite as bad as Laughing Sister. I think this is a very strong card. A lot of mid-range decks and some control decks are absolutely playing this guy. He's a 5.
Yeah. So he's not quite a Dr. Boom, but he's still really solid.
Exactly.
Yeah. John, what do you think about this card? Anything you
Yeah, I'm
want to add?
gonna give this card 5. I think it's very, very good at mid-range deaths. Even in control deaths, yeah, you can play it. So it's just good. 5 stars.
Yeah. Hayden, you have Dr. Boom and you have a lot of strong cards in Wild. Does this fit into decks? Is it that good?
That's a good question, honestly. I think it's okay. I don't think it's anywhere near as good as it is in Standard, though. The control decks already have incredible top end. We don't really exactly need top end. It's a better Ysera, but how good is Ysera? She's fine. I'd give him like a 4 or 5. I don't think he's like actually the strongest card. Him being at 8/8 taunt is fairly strong, though. He's good top end. He's just not a Tyrion. So I don't know. I think he's fine.
Yeah. And now the interesting bit. Arena. Niraj, let's hear about this card.
If I could give
Bias there at all.
if I could
This is
give
the
a
interesting bit. Sorry, go ahead.
Alright.
Yeah.
If I could give a card like 6 stars, I would totally give it 6 stars. This is just like so. The biggest comparison that it's been getting is Ysera, obviously,
Yeah, it's so
Um,
much better in Arena.
and there's two big things about this that makes it much better than Ysera, or three actually. One, 8 mana is much different from 9 because 8's a lot. It's a good amount faster,
And you
so
get
to
to use your
speak.
hero power on the same turn.
Yeah, if you play this on 10, or you can play another 2-drop.
Yeah.
Second reason, the cards are much more impactful. Like, something like Frostmourne. That's a pretty insane card if you have something to support it. Or if you have enough to support the heal or to support the damage you take. It's really insane when the death rattle goes off. Even just Army of the Dead is really good. There's just a lot of good.
There's only 2 bad cards for Arena that you can get off the Lich King, which is the Death Grip, which isn't even that terrible. It's card advantage, and you still have an 8/8 taunt. And then there's the Anti-Magic Shell, which again, even if you get that on 2 minions, that's still pretty good.
Like,
So,
it's
yeah.
you're happy if it's kind of like Silver Moon Portal, but like on steroids. So
So
I'm
that's the
fairly
worst
happy.
case scenario, yeah.
And with the Lich King, the third reason being taunt, which is like it's not like something ignorable. You literally have to kill it. In comparison with Ysera, like you can't really just ignore it. You can't ignore Ysera and go face, but the stats are more. It's like an 8/8 with taunt. You do have to go through it and kill it.
Yeah.
I think this card is like probably one of the best legendaries you can pick in Arena. I'm not putting it over Deathwing or Pyros, not quite yet until I test this out. But this is probably very close to those power levels.
Right. So I was going through all the legendaries before, and so the top 3 in my mind are Deathwing, Pyros, and Onyxia, and they kind of do 3 different things, so it's really hard to say actually who's on top. But I would definitely put this solid 4th. I can't think of a lot of other legendaries that I would argue for 4th over this. I think that this is just so good.
I cannot either. This card is just really. I think this is really strong.
Yeah. So yeah, solid 5 out of 5 in Arena.
I would give that rating as well. I would give it 6 if I could.
Yeah. You can because I'm host. I'll let you give it a 6.
All right, yeah, I'll give it a
let's
6.
Move on to Arthas now. And let me just get the arrow.
Come on, Arrow.
The arrow. There we go. That's a bit better. I've zoomed in as well. Let's hear about Arthas from you, John. What do you think about this card?
The stats are just really underwhelming, honestly. I don't think it's very good. You play it on turn 4, it's a 2/2, and you're really sad about that. In a super slow meta, sure, play it with this off, but I don't see that happening. So
Also,
it's like
loses
bad.
really hard to priest. You give your opponent a Death Knight card.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think, Fuel, about Arthas? We'll move on to Haydum then until Fuel is back. What about Arthas and Wild? Haydum?
Okay, so I'm not too sold on the card, but my friend Doc Rowdy was actually very sold on it, and his reasoning is just only in Control Shaman. It's a free card to put in the deck. For the most part, Control Shaman is a fairly loose shell. You can take in cards, you can take out cards. And while it isn't like, it isn't a Kel'Thuzad, it isn't a Steeds or anything like that, what it is, it's just kind of a value engine. You can reincarnate it to get answers. All of the cards you can get out of it are completely fine. If you play an Army of the Dead, you rip Kel'Thuzads and your opponent loses the game. It's just how that happens. None of the cards you can get are bad. It's a fine card. I don't think it's great. It's really only a Control Shaman card, if anything. But that's it.
Makes sense. Fuel, have you returned to us?
No, it was actually Niraj that left, but Fuel's just muted, so I don't know what happened.
Huh. Weird.
Yep.
Well, it's a good
Niraj is
thing.
gone.
It's a good thing I am also a Lord of the Arena, so I will cover this card in Arena. And it's a really hard card to evaluate because obviously 4 mana for a 2/2 means you're essentially giving up your turn 4. Like, you may as well be playing a spell to give yourself a Death Knight because your opponent's going to be left with a 4/2, and that's really difficult for a lot of classes to deal with. Unless you're something like Mage, or unless you're a class that has weapons, it's going to be really hard. And I really like the Death Knight cards, so I'm actually not sure if it will make up for it, because a lot of these cards can get you tempo back. If you get something like an Army of the Dead off this, then that's definitely enough to gain back the tempo you've lost by playing Arthas. But the other problem is that Arena is going to be really snowbally once you get onto turn 5 now. So, well, at least it has the risk of being snowbally. So, I'm hesitating to call this a great card in Arena. I think it's a very hit and miss card, just because you will have to regain the tempo. And something like Frostmourne will do that, and Army of the Dead will do that, but I'm not sure if the rest of these will necessarily do that. What do you think, John?
Oh, an arena.
Yeah.
I think it really depends on your deck, honestly. Like if I'm playing a slow mage deck, I can probably afford to play this.
Yeah.
I play this. I fireball whatever they play, and then I'll come back with one of the broken Death Knight cards I get. In
That's
Hunter,
if you-
obviously, it's not
yeah.
going to be really good.
Yeah.
So
That's also
I
if
think
you
it is
get
good in the
those
right deck.
Death Knight cards as well, though. But yeah, but
I
in,
think
in a
it's good in
mage
the right
deck,
deck.
yeah, in a mage
Yeah.
deck, I could see you picking this. I'm not quite sure about other classes. I don't think you'd pick this in any of the other ones
Yeah,
necessarily.
probably not.
Yeah. So in mage, I would give it. Actually, in mage, I think it's actually really good. I think you're right. So I might give it like a 3.5 to 4 in mage, but I think in all the
Sure.
others, I might give it like a 2 to
That's fair.
2.5. Actually, I'll give it 2.5 just because of the quality of 2 of them. I think like those 2 can win you a game by themselves. So having that kind of
Yeah.
potential from one card is really good in arena. So I'll give it 2.5 and everything else, 4 in mage.
Fair.
But it's a really hard card to evaluate. So
Yeah, of course.
throwing that out. Right, that is all of our legendaries. I think it's pretty clear what the best legendary is for all
Yep.
formats, but we'll just go around and say it. John, what is your pick for the most impactful legendary?
Yeah, we
Standard?
got Mr. Lich King. He's good.
Yeah. Hey, Dom.
Lich King.
And Arena Lich King, of course. So now we've come to the end of our stream. What we're going to do is we're going to pick the 3 most impactful cards for Wild, the 3 most impactful cards for Standard, and the 3 most impactful cards for Arena. And luckily, we still have one each of those. So we'll start with you, John. And if you need to look back over the cards, that's fine. But what would you say are your 3 most impactful cards for Standard?
Okay, well, Lich King is obviously up there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say Blood Razor as well. I feel like that's
Where is
just really good for Warrior in general.
What rarity is that? Just so I can pull it up.
It's a Warrior card.
Oh, no. We're talking
Can I
just
not do
neutrals.
Warrior cards?
No, we're just talking
Oh,
neutrals.
just neutrals?
Just
Oh no.
neutrals. Because we did the other ones yesterday.
Okay, Lich King.
Yeah.
Tough
Bone
choice.
Drake,
Yeah.
and Cobalt Scalebane, I guess.
Seems reasonable. Hey, Dom, what do you think?
Probably the Lich King, Nerubian Unraveler, and Corpse Taker. The rest of the cards are just bad.
Yeah. I feel like all of these cards aren't good.
Reasonable. And I think for Arena, you have to kind of value commons more just because they appear more. So in terms of most impactful, I'd probably go with Bone Mare first, Scalebane second, and Death Speaker third. But there's also a case to be made for Bone Drake. I think this card could be really good in Arena, so I really want to put it as fourth. Or maybe like this could be third in a couple of other people's lists. So this is really close. But for my top 3, I'd pick Bone Mare, Scalebane, and Death Speaker. Brill. So the new set will come out in about 20 hours. This does conclude our stream, and we really hope you enjoyed it. I'd just like to say a quick thanks to all of our teachers. Dan for the overlay, all of the people on Ask Hearthstone who make this server work, all the moderators from the main Hearthstone subreddit, past and present teachers that have been with us, and all of you for watching as well. Thank you so much, and we hoped you enjoyed it. Goodbye.
Bye.
Rebroadcast from the beginning.